It is 6:02. Good morning from the 104.5 The Zone studios. I'm Will Bowling. The first round of the NCAA tournament officially begins today. Tennessee takes the court in Lexington against 15-seed Wofford with tip-off scheduled for 5:50. Vol Network pregame taking over here at 5:15 on The Zone. The Terriers of Wofford out of the Southern Conference score 38.8% of their points from the three-point line, and four different players made 50-plus threes this season as the Terriers made 11-plus three-pointers in all three wins at the SoCon tournament. Westwood One's coverage of the NCAA tournament begins today at 11 a.m. here on The Zone. The Texans and Daniil Hunter have agreed to a one-year, $35.6 million contract extension that makes him the NFL's second highest paid defensive end. Hunter will make $32 million this season, a $12.5 million base raise, and $55.1 million, with 54 of it guaranteed over the next two seasons. He had 12 sacks for Houston last season. The Texans are also adding tackle Cam Robinson, who split last season between Jacksonville and Minnesota. He was a second-round pick in 2017 of the Jags. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, you need to visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone. RKW off and running on your Thursday morning. It feels a little bit like Friday Junior around these parts. You know what else it feels like? Christmas. The first round of the NCAA tournament is here. If you're like me, it is the best day of the calendar year. Kayla with the day off. Ramon Foster, Will Bowling, Justin Hawkins is our producer. On Thursday, March the 20th, Ramon, we made it.
We did.
Day one.
We here, baby.
The real first day of the NCAA tournament. Good morning.
Yeah, why run from it, baby? Run to it. Get
absolutely.
Your brackets done. Last night was what you needed it to be. Yeah. Ha.
Oh, yes. Absolutely.
Chaos. Chaos, Jayhawk. Chaos is what's happening moving forward, man.
What a time to be alive.
It feels so good.
Can't wait for my bracket to get broken today. That's
Absolutely.
I'm trying to see if I need to do one more just for the heck of it, man. Just for the heck of it. Actually, before Jayhawk played that sound right there, you was putting your coffee up to your mouth to sip. And I thought you was just going, I thought that was you, but no, it was the CBS sound as you was taking a sip right there.
I'm a radio professional.
I know. It came,
care of these things.
It came in like a sip. I was like, dang, Will, you're pretty and strong inhale right there. But never. That's never mind, though, man. Baseball yesterday, of course. Just real quick recap.
Groundhog Day.
It was windy. Every day we've been out there, it's been windy.
Was the wind blowing in or out?
It was blowing more sideways. It wasn't even in or out.
Neither.
I can't even. Yep, neither. Will. It was blowing sideways, man. But good showing. Got in, got out, man. Saw my people that I needed to see at the park yesterday. It was good times. I told you yesterday too. I was sore yesterday.
Yeah.
I've had 2 straight days of lifting. By the way, afternoon crew, like evening crew at the gym, not so bad. You want to know why? Yes. Shocked the heck out of me, man. Shocked the heck out of me. It's because the people that are going at like after 5 o'clock are your 9 to 5 workers.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, absolutely.
They're trying to get in, get out. Don't want no foolishness, and I was proud of them, man. I was like, you know what? I actually thought y'all were going to be a little bit more ratchet in here in the evening.
What kind of foolishness did you expect? Like, well, what are the things that are happening in the morning that aren't happening in the afternoon?
Camera setups. That's what I realized.
Oh, yeah.
Influencers, they get up at about 10 to 2, okay?
Hit the ground running.
Go to the gym. Why? Because they're making money off the internet. They don't have to go check in when nobody will, and it gets crowded, and that's when you see all this PDA in the gym. I can't stand that.
PDA in the gym is one of the wildest things that I think exists.
Yeah, the public display of affection is like, dog, I know y'all love each other, but not in here. Please beat it, please, okay? Just like your brackets today.
That's right. Day one of the NCAA tournament yesterday in the Midwest region first four, a very fun game between Xavier and Texas as the first SEC team goes down. Clearly, we were all frauds all this time, Ramon.
I know.
Is the way this works. Trey Johnson started off hot, 23 points, 6 of 14 shooting. But ultimately, it was Xavier coming back as Marcus Foster gets 22 points to lead the way. And there's one out of 14.
It was. It wasn't enough that Trey Johnson and Tremont Mark could do, man, at the beginning parts. I mean, in that second half. I mean, Tremont Mark, he was a guy, man, I felt like that was leading them. They talked to him at halftime. He was geeked up as far as his just concentration on what they had to do as a squad. You could tell there was pressure there. But, again, the way Texas ran up and down the court and pressed Xavier, man, wasn't sustainable, clearly. And, of course, the first half of that game, too, Xavier had a few guys that were in foul trouble that had to sit on the bench. So whenever they got off, man, by the way, the halftime, there's one guy that really just stole my attention. Well, you know, like I'm learning this like broadcast stuff more and more as we continue on this journey of doing the sports entertainment stuff.
Okay.
At the desk, Jay Wright is good.
Oh, he's outstanding, isn't he?
He was.
Yeah, he's really good.
I was ready to go to bed, and I text Savage. I said, "Dog."
Yeah, no, he's a natural.
Jay Wright, he sits. If he was still coaching,
yeah,
I don't even think he need NIL. He's
Cal
so
Neptune just got fired by Villanova, so they might want him back. Honestly,
look, yes, it's the answer. He was, and he broke it down exactly as it happened. He spoke calm about like, all right, well, if you got guys in foul trouble, and I think he was speaking about who was it, Ryan Conwell from Xavier, and also Zach Fremont. Either one of those guys, I forget who it was at the time, but they had to sit him down with 3 fouls, and he was talking through the process like he knows as a coach, you can't save these fouls. You're going to feel worse by letting your best player stay on the bench and be in foul trouble as opposed to saying, you know what? I'm trusting you. You understand this moment. Go out and play. And they spoke on it, man. Between him and Jalen Rose spoke about the 3-point shooting that Xavier had going into the second half, and it showed up. And it more or less came from their bench than it did from the starters.
Yeah, Xavier in the first half really, because of the foul trouble, couldn't stop Texas inside. Texas scored 26 of its 47 points in the paint in the first half. Once Xavier made adjustments and got its guys back on the floor in the second half, only 10 points in the paint allowed after halftime. So good coaching job by Sean Miller to have his guys prepared and ready to go.
And of course, here's the other part. Texas is athletic. Their coach needed this game. I'm not sure what's going to happen.
Yeah, Rodney Terry,
man, you could tell he was coaching for his job, or at least the conversation around it was like, hey, they feel like they got another level to get to. That sucks sometimes, though, too, knowing that you are a good coach, but you understand that people are on your heels as far as like trying to push your organization and program over the top. But
that's one of those that's tricky, too, because like most programs would give Rodney Terry another year.
Easily.
Texas is not most programs.
No, they not. And also, too, I was speaking to Savage about this a little bit. I feel like between Oklahoma and Texas both, on the basketball side of things, I do think they were a little bit of shell shock. Like,
yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, and I don't know. I think they were getting healthy at this point of the year, too, and they had some injuries early. But this time next year, I expect a different Texas. Now, whether this is with Rodney Terry, who knows? But them getting Trey Johnson and saying that they can compete with one, I guarantee you Texas is going to hit that portal and pour some money into their basketball program the same way they did with football. So it's fascinating watching it break down. Sucks that the first SEC school went down.
That's right.
I know.
Well, I won't lose.
Not the real UT.
I know.
That's facts.
As Jayhawk says in my ear, they are UT Junior. Okay?
Can we just please not do the whole like insert name here team was frauds all along when they lose, or conference was a fraud all along. Like we can't have this revisionist history of how good the SEC was all season and how dominant they were in non-conference. Now, again, it's not like we do in bowl season where it's like, well, they didn't want to be there. I mean, all these teams obviously want to be there.
Yeah.
And we may learn that the SEC was top heavy, or maybe it was deeper than we thought, or, maybe they just kind of meet expectations. But the overreactions of the opening weekend are something that we as sports fans love to do, and I'm going to do my best to not partake in that.
Yeah, no. If you watch this game, though, there's the other part of it too.
It's a good game.
It's going to be a lot of box score watchers and be like, look at the SEC. But like, if you look at that game, like Texas had them. Xavier came out. I mean, from the first possession in the second half, They shot a 3, and you say, yep, this is exactly what Jerry Wright spoke about. Like, and they continue to just press and push Texas. Texas is a squad, man, that wasn't equipped to handle a team like Xavier that could shoot the way they did, and not only that, but be able to control the paint too. So, good on Xavier. First out.
To your point, Will, the other day when you said that, I think you're going to see one of two things for the SEC this tournament. You're going to see, one, it's a gauntlet, and they're just going to be too exhausted, too tired, and they're just not going to go very far. Or you're going to see multiple SEC teams make a run, and I think you're just going to see one of two. There's not going to be any in between.
A lot of it depends on matchups, too. I mean, like Tennessee last season was maybe the third best team in the country in the Elite Eight.
Yeah.
And they just ran into the second best team in the Elite Eight. So, meanwhile, Alabama got to play Clemson to go to the Final Four, which no disrespect to Clemson, but that's not Purdue, that's not UConn, that's not,
Clemson fans listening. It's disrespectful.
Clemson, do they know they have a basketball team? A good basketball team. They're a 5. I've got them going far. I have them in my Elite Eight again.
I did too.
And that was the last time you'll hear either of us say my bracket, because like your fantasy team, nobody cares. Respect about your bracket.
By the way, shout out to Jayhawk, man. Finally came to the mic with some bass in his voice. I thought that was good this morning.
Yeah, I woke up a little sore throat, so it's going to get a little deeper.
I get it.
Let's go, Barry White.
615-737-1045 is our number. Some Wednesday night headlines for you coming up. And coming up this morning on the show, Coach Dave McGinnis, of course, at 7:20. We'll talk NFL draft with him. Ben McKee of Go Vols 247 stops by at 9:20 from Lexington, where we will preview Tennessee and Wofford with him. The Texans making some moves yesterday, leading the headlines of the NFL that we'll get to coming up next.
It's Ramon Foss for Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. Good people, they have been around in our area, man, since 1990. The cooler thing about that, man, is they're family owned and operated. Jimmy Hiller was recently named amongst the most admired CEOs. That's because how he truly cares for his team and the clients that he serves. Hiller takes care of the customer on every job, every single time, when they stand behind their work. 100% satisfaction is what they guarantee, man. Happy you'll be of the services for is the slogan. If a customer isn't pleased with the work performed, they will make it right, man. They send a professional, experienced, trustworthy technicians into your home to leave it cleaner and better than they found it. And also, best part about it is they offer you true transparency pricing, which means that Hiller will line item every part of the job up front, so homeowners can understand what they're paying for and why. Listen, if you want to book with Hiller, just simply learn more about them. Visit happyhiller.com.
RKW is brewed by Scooters Coffee as we begin your Friday Junior, your Thursday morning here at 104.5 The Zone. And you need some Scooters Coffee in your cup this morning. White House, Mount Juliet, Rivergate, Smyrna, and Brentwood. Download the Scooters Coffee mobile app today to order ahead and save $2 off your first mobile order. Ramon, I think it would be a great idea for the people to celebrate basketball with cinnamon rolls.
There's nothing wrong with that.
And they're warm.
I mean, there's a such thing in basketball as a finger roll. You know, some would call it the butter roll at times. Right. What's wrong, Will, with having a cinnamon roll from Scooters Coffee?
That's so true, and I didn't even put that together.
Was that not cool there?
That is you being a sports entertainer, broadcast professional.
And you know what? One way to pivot off of this, Will, is for me to set you a pick and then I roll. What is happening this morning?
That's fantastic.
What is?
Let you cook.
Let me cook, man.
Yeah, that's right.
Maybe some cinnamon rolls from Scooters Coffee is what I'm telling you.
I love it.
Jeez, that was
absolutely love it.
Fire right there.
Not that this was exactly breaking news, but we did get more from a national reporter and, of course, friend of the show, ESPN's Jeremy Fowler, last night on SportsCenter on the Tennessee Titans and Cam Ward as the number 1 overall pick.
Well, Ward has certainly separated himself in the process as option 1 compared to the rest of the field over the last month, certainly. And the feeling around the league is that Tennessee will be leaning that way. If they haven't already, then eventually will be leaning toward Ward. They have not made a firm determination yet. I'm told the Titans are going through a very thorough process. But his interviews with Tennessee went well. He was able to identify mistakes, explain them. They feel like he can be coachable.
More of the same. Yesterday on SportsCenter from ESPN's Jeremy Fowler, as, again, Ramon, the buzz kind of is what it is at this point. It does feel like everyone around the league knows what the Titans are going to do, and we're just waiting to make sure that that is 100% what they're going to do.
Yeah, it seems like he's checked every box. Well, from what Jeremy Fowler is saying, I think we've heard a little bit of the rumblings coming out of the Central St. Thomas Sports Park. Man, I feel like we've heard that he's checked those boxes. It was said, I feel like last week, that the issues that Cam Ward has are fixable. At least he explained them to be fixable. Now, we've gone through this before with quarterbacks in years past, right? Specifically, and I'm not comparing one to one here, but Tebow was fixed as it pertains to his throwing motion.
His throw motion, right.
You know, those types of things. Most guys go back to what they're comfortable with, especially when they start having success with it. So if Cam has convinced the Titans brass that the issues that he had are within himself, it makes sense. And then the other part of it, though, too, I feel like in this situation, the Titans are almost forced to take Cam in a sense, more than having the option to go in other directions, because the Giants can just stay put, wait on their quarterback next year if that's the case, or especially if they get Aaron Rodgers. We're waiting to see if that domino falls, basically moving forward too.
You had other teams that were more willing to do the veteran stopgap thing versus what you were willing to do. Going back to your comment about things being fixable, with the quarterbacks that you have been around, Ramon, what issues are not fixable in your mind? Like, how many fatal flaws at the quarterback position are there top of mind that you think to yourself, yeah, if I see this coming out in the draft, then I'm not investing in this guy? Probably
more technique stuff and just nerves. It's honestly the same things that Callahan spoke about with Levis for the most part, man. Like the nerves of
nervous system.
If guys are bad, although I will say I think there's one player I've seen do it. Mason Rudolph, when he came into the league, I'm talking about happy feet in the pocket. Couldn't settle himself. Couldn't really just find his spot. Like, it was frustrating blocking for him early on, and watching him his last year in Pittsburgh and last year with the Titans, his ability to sit in the pocket and operate was something that I saw change and be different for him. Now, the other side of that is sometimes, like, turnovers attach themselves to you. Like some of the turnovers that Mason had last year with the Titans, whether it be tipped balls or, just bad luck or him not seeing a guy, like, that showed up earlier in his career too. But what it boils down to more than anything, though, Will, is, are you around long enough to allow it to be fixed? Remember, I've said that before sometimes with guys. Like, sometimes you have to be in the system and get another opportunity long enough for you to show them that it's fixed. I was encouraged by seeing Mason had changed those things, like technique, arm slots, and stuff like that. That's something I feel like a lot of coaches look at and say, you are who you are. Now, I'll allow you to do it if you're successful. Mm-hmm. Like, that's one of the things where I've seen guys have to deal with, like Lamar using his legs. Like, are you smart enough to continue to do it, or are you going to continue to get hurt? Like what we expected with Jaden Daniels a little bit.
It's really interesting because Cam Ward is such a high ceiling prospect. I mean, he really is. We have never denied that.
Right.
I think even you and I, who have been in the trade back and Abdul Carter camp, of which I am no longer in, from the beginning, we've been able to admit that he has always been the higher ceiling quarterback between him and Shedeur Sanders. It is the risk you are taking and how low the floor, I think, could be. But what do you like about him on tape? We talk so much about how much football he's played, the quote-unquote dog mentality. Unless I look a guy in the eye and talk to him, behind closed doors personally. It's always hard to know how much of that is the culture around the guy, how much he's a leader. Like, it's hard for me to measure dog.
Right.
Unless I can have a conversation with you. Thankfully, the Titans have had many conversations with these prospects and with Cam Ward specifically. What do you like about him?
I like this about him. His ability to take talent and somewhat elevate it. I'm not sure if Xavier Milroe is that good. You see what I'm saying? Like, I don't know if he's that good of a quarterback. And here's also it's twofold for me, Will, when you're asking that question of what can you fix about a quarterback, right, that you want them to correct versus what they're good at. Cam Ward, to me, has that gunslinger side in him, right, that you want, especially on a team like this that has this amount of talent. Like, it doesn't have a lot. In comparison to everybody else that they got to face this year. So I like the idea that he has gone to different schools, Washington State to Miami, and elevated the program. That may be necessary here. Mm-hmm. Now, on the other side of that too, Will, gunslingers get shot. His ability to be risky, his ability to force the football, which has been his biggest detriment, right? But that's what you also 100%. Love about him. That's where it can start to, where it rains, it pours for a guy like him, because the defense may not be where you want it to be when he's turning the football over, if that's the thing of his, or his ability to try to extend in the pocket and having those fumbles happen. Like, some of what I saw on this tape was his never die mentality, where he's going to the ground and he did toss the ball up in the air. Right. That is, again, a gift and a curse. I love Lamar Jackson running, right? I don't really, but I love Lamar Jackson running, the player. But if it means he's going to get hurt or take big hits on the sideline, I'm not into that.
And we've talked about this since the beginning, right? Like, when Cam Ward improvises and makes a good decision at the end of that improvisation, he is as good as it gets at the quarterback position. He's electric, honestly. Yeah. He made some throws against Florida where he is drifting way outside the pocket. He's getting close to the sideline. When he's decisive about it and makes a good decision at the end of all of that scrambling, man, it looks unbelievably good. It's when he throws late over the middle after doing all that scrambling, or tries to, as he's belly flopping onto the ground, underhand toss it to his running back and he fumbles against Virginia Tech. Those are the moments where you have a little bit of concern. And I think we in this market just have become a bit more jaded for quarterbacks that are risk takers because of Will Levis. Not all risk takers are bad in the NFL.
They're not.
But how many times, Ramon, did we say last season, I can live with some of those crazy bad plays if you give me a lot of the really good ones. Mm-hmm. And that was the thing about Josh Allen that bought him more time. And we make that comparison a lot with him and Will Levis. Josh Allen would give you a lot of oh-no plays, but it's kind of like the three-point shooter that steps out from behind the arc when you yell, no, yes. Well, they earn the opportunity to stay on the floor because sometimes they make them. Yeah. And sometimes Cam Ward will make a play that makes you go, oh, holy crap. There are not a lot of human beings on this earth that can do that. That is what does excite me. Now, it worries me, yes, but that is what excites me. It's not all bad for me for Cam Ward, and I think I could say the same for you as well, Ramon. No. It's just that we had different priorities for this team this offseason. Now that they've done what they've done this offseason, the priorities have changed, and now you got to go get your quarterback.
And again, I still push back and say, is there an element of them playing the game? Are they lying still? Is this just a point of to drum it up? Because this happens, right?
It does happen.
This absolutely
It would surprise me, but it does happen.
It will surprise me, but it does happen. Now, again, the Titans are in a position, Will, of need. Like, that's what makes this situation right here. So, I guess you got to split the pie like 15 different ways, is because there's so many different needs on the squad. And do you want to start with the quarterback with a team in the state that it is right now? Yeah. Specifically when, again, most high school coaches do what? Well, I mean, most college coaches do what when they come to college. I mean, go to the high schools to visits. They want to go see the juniors that they know they can talk to. Mm-hmm. They want to see the juniors. But what are they doing over the coach's shoulder? They're looking to see who's behind. And that's why I feel like the scouting department has to be too. Like, looking behind this quarterback class this year and seeing what's next year. Do you say to yourself, Coach, I'll be back again to recruit that D tackle?
Right.
Or do you say, nah, we're good and I'm going to just take Cam Ward? Like, as far as quarterback ratings coming out into the draft, sure. Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter have been labeled as the best guys in the draft. Mm-hmm. So do you go with that, or do you separate it and go to quarterback draft? That's the only pushback. It's because, like, the value of the pick.
Right. I do think Cam Ward is worthy of the number 1 overall pick. Because even if he is the 5th to 10th best player in the draft, it's worthy of making that pick number 1 overall. I think the only scenario where you don't take a quarterback at this point is how much, they're more in the 15 to 20 range. Like, I don't think it would be worth taking the 15th best player in the draft just because he plays quarterback. But at this point, considering the other moves that you have made, I'm willing to give a young quarterback a chance to play behind this offensive line that I think has no choice but to be better.
Yeah, 100%.
At this point. Commenter on YouTube says, y'all hate Will Levis. I'm convinced. Mason Rudolph was supposed to be the successor and couldn't beat out Duck Hodges, Mitchell Trubisky, or Pickett. So what part of his game got better?
Mason did beat out Duck Hodges.
Yeah,
Mason
I don't know. I don't understand that part of the comment.
He did come in and play better than Kenny Pickett.
Yeah, I think this fan base hates Will Levis, yeah. I think some of it. I think the people online that we see make fun of him all the time. I don't hate Will Levis. I just think he missed his shot. I mean, I don't understand how you can go back to him considering how much worse he made your offense last season when he was on the field.
So the NFL is a very matter-of-fact league, right? With some great lines here and there.
It's not personal.
It's not personal. This is a results-based league that people, like, I hadn't really seen the comment that said that, but, like, are you willing to bet again on the guy that you gave an entire offseason to and told him this was his franchise to run it, and then those were the results that you got in the league, where also the process now is, we heard Charles Davis say this when Charles Davis said this yesterday with us, like, if you don't have the guy, I'm going to go get another guy. Who was it he said? It was Arizona and Josh Rosen?
Josh Rosen.
And then the next year they went and moved up to go get Kyler Murray, if I'm not mistaken, who had options to go to play in the MLB.
Oh, they didn't move up. They were just, they were number 1.
They ended up taking them. Number 1, and they had a top 10 pick with Josh Rosen the year before. Now, I know one doesn't correlate to the other, and, I mean, Kyler Murray was that much better, but you got to also understand, for the person that said that we hate Will Levis, no. People in general hate bad play.
Yeah.
This ain't a personal situation right here. It's the same reason why I myself, like, I love what Aaron Rodgers, the career is,
right?
But the current player, I don't love. Like, we're more forgiving for a guy that we think will have a whole lot of talent as a young quarterback, as opposed to, let's just be completely honest, if a D tackle, if Tavondre Sweat was getting rooted out of the A-gap play after play, you'd want him cut, and you want him cut right now. This ain't a hate thing when people want to see the franchise be good.
Yeah, I mean, he took 41 sacks in 12 games and had an 81.4 quarterback rating, and commenter on YouTube says, we want him to be Donovan McNabb right out of the gate. Well, no. I would just like for him to throw it to our team and not the other one.
Well, no. I will push back just on the no, because in today's football era, you do have to be that good early. Like,
you have to show more flashes of it.
Yeah, exactly.
He was a constant decline from his first ever game.
Yeah.
Will Levis was.
It never got better than the Atlanta game.
No. And honestly, that was one of his biggest mistakes, was having such a good performance out of the gate.
It was.
In changing the expectations. Truly.
Yeah,
I mean,
seriously.
He's 5-16 when he plays. He's 13 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. And again, like, I think we as football talking people and Titans people, don't talk enough about how different the offensive line looked with him and with Mason Rudolph last year.
We saw it. We talked about it a little bit, but not enough. You're right, Will.
He took a significantly lower amount of sacks, Mason Rudolph did, than Will Levis did in about the same amount of dropbacks.
Yeah.
Not same, but close to it, yes.
Yeah, and that's the thing about it. And Charles Davis somewhat brought that up yesterday. Like, Will Levis can still operate here in this city. Nobody's going to go up to Will Levis and say, hey, you suck.
And it's like I said, it's the online social media part of the fan base that I do think hates Will Levis.
That's true.
And that's all I said. When I said the parts of the fan base hates him, I mean a small percentage online, and unfortunately many of them are Vols fans who probably never gave him a chance, to be honest with you.
And that's also a part of the conversation too. But then here's the other side of it though, Will. You said there's a bunch of Vols fans and probably SEC fans too that didn't give him a fair shot. All right, with that being said, week 1, with the lead up that he had and how bad it went. And then you follow it up in week 2 and do the exact same thing too. Like, how forgivable are you if that's the case? Like, if your reputation is a turnover king, we saw time and time again in his revenge game back to Knoxville and in Lexington, him get dogged out in these same scenarios where it was his team. He was supposed to elevate Kentucky. And what did you get? You got similar results that you got
8-4 as a junior.
And we were told if you surround them with weapons, if you give them an offense.
And they did.
And they did.
Yeah, totally.
Just not on the line.
It's not fair in the NFL sometimes.
I think he was the problem with that line. I really do. I don't think that's revisionist history. Now, granted, could J.C. Latham have played better at times? Of course. Could, the right tackle position was absolutely wretched here. Absolutely wretched last season. But I would love to know inside that building how many of those sacks they attribute to being Will Levis's fault.
Yeah.
Because I guarantee you it's a bigger number than you think.
It's a way bigger number. Yeah. Trust me. It's a way bigger number.
So, not to say it's all on him, the sacks that he took, but that to me is the biggest reason why you can't go back to him.
No. And then it just held, to be honest with you, made your offense very predictable. At a certain point, too, like the other side of this is his acknowledgement of how bad it was also. Like when you tell yourself, and that was the other part, too, when you asked me what can a quarterback change about himself, the mental sides of it. If a quarterback is playing mental gymnastics, Will, you're not going to get him back.
Right.
Carson Wentz is still battling, right? From his Philly days, his mental stopgap that he's had as far as Nick Folk coming in and being able to just roll him over, he's never really bounced back to being the quarterback that he was.
That's true.
Mentally, he's cooked. Tebow.
Physically, he's also cooked after a bunch of injuries.
I mean, think about Tannehill at the end. Mentally, I think cooked. Like, there's a bunch of guys in this league that never get that mental side back. And that, again, Will Levis may need to change the scenery here to try to find that spot for himself again.
I also think, too, the element of his skill set versus Brian Callahan's idea of an ideal quarterback being so different is critical in all of this. He is the total opposite of what Brian Callahan wants in his system that we've seen in Cincinnati.
So he needs more like a John Gruden, Mike Vrabel type guy, if we're being completely honest with you. Levis, that is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, sports get very personal. Sports are very unfair, too. And again, when they have the ability to find your replacement, trust me, I know they will find your replacement.
Totally.
Easily.
No doubt about it. 615-737-1045 is our number. There is a prospect who was turning heads yesterday in the NFL, a pro day workout that went viral for one specific reason that we'll react to coming up next.
It's Ramon Foster for Genesis Diamonds, man. I'm here to tell y'all, man, we are lucky to have Genesis Diamonds here. It's such a cut above other places, far and away the leader, too, man. The dominant player when it comes to engagement rings and fine jewelry. Number one, the store is amazing if you haven't been in. Secondary, most important, the people are great, and they really care about making sure you are very well informed on what they got going on. The top-notch quality, too, man. But the best part, the value, the prices, the fact that you get a bigger, better diamond for less. Nobody beats their diamond prices, and this is why Genesis is such a disruptor in the jewelry industry. They are the category killer. Remember, Genesis Diamonds was started by former diamond wholesaler and diamond cutters, man. They have connections that go back for decades, and every diamond is handpicked using the highest standards. All this means unbeatable value for you. They refuse to be undersold on GIA-certified diamonds. They have a price guarantee that is not just local. It covers the entire nation. Get the deal you deserve on your diamond at Genesis Diamonds, and don't miss their expanded selection of luxury pre-owned Rolex watches, all the hard-to-find models, too. So go ahead and check them out. Extraordinary service, unmatched quality, unbeatable value, and an unrivaled selection and no compromises. Locations are in Green Hills and Cool Springs.
Day one of the first round of the NCAA tournament. There was a post at Rocky Top Insider about 3 reasons why Tennessee can make the Final Four. We're going to give those to you coming up in 15 minutes to kick off your Tennessee basketball game day. Of course, Vol Network coverage right here on the Zone at 5:15 tonight. But Ramon Foster first. We got to talk about a quarterback who the Vols beat last year.
Yay.
Jalen Milroe, unofficially, at Alabama's Pro Day ran a 4.37. So congratulations to Jalen Milroe on his 4.40. Because if he unofficially ran a 4.37, let's be honest, he didn't break
close to a 4.4.
But regardless, even if it is a 4.4 for Jalen Milroe, I don't think 0.03 of a second really changes the evaluation. Now, that's impressive. And Jalen Milroe turned some heads yesterday. Are you moved by a 4.37 40 time for the former Alabama quarterback?
Yeah, but for the wrong reasons.
Okay.
For the wrong reasons.
What are those reasons?
Because he's a
slot receiver?
No, well, that's where I'm headed.
Because I might go there.
He's a very specific offensive quarterback.
There you go.
And I'm not sure how many NFL offenses have that. There's one, but that spot is occupied already. If we're specifically speaking about it, and that's the Arizona Cardinals. If we're mocking one offense or one player in accordance to another, I think putting him in Arizona matches more than putting him in Cleveland.
I hadn't thought about that.
Tennessee.
Yeah.
Maybe Miami with Tua. That's the only thing I can think of. Running quarterback, moving the pocket is Kyler Murray and it's Tua Tagovailoa.
That's really interesting.
Because, again, Will, that with what he did in Alabama versus what they wanted him to do, most of that fan base, specifically, my brother-in-law was an avid Alabama fan. He was saying this, run Milroe. And this ain't a change the black quarterback to a skilled player. It was utilize his strengths. His passing isn't a strong suit of his, man.
That LSU game when they went to Death Valley and just absolutely, dominated LSU.
Yeah.
It's because they ran him over and over and over and over again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Lone Phoenix puts in there Philly. Okay, but he's not about to move Jalen Hurts
playing behind Jalen
Hurts. That's my only contingency. Kyler Murray's, the conversation's coming up a little bit about him. Like, what does Arizona do with him? And of course, Tua, his injuries and stuff like that. Right? Those are the two to me that says very specific offenses.
Do you think we get to a point where NFL offenses are college offenses? And what I mean by that is what Jaden Daniels and Washington had this season with Cliff Kingsbury. It was a lot of shotgun. It was a lot of tempo. It was a lot of things to make Jaden Daniels feel comfortable in a similar scheme to what he ran at LSU. Ramon, I already feel like the NFL has moved more towards college schemes in terms of some of the RPOs, in terms of what works at that level. Will it move enough, though, to make a guy like Jalen Milroe successful in the National Football League?
How many hits can he take?
Well, yeah.
How many hits can he take?
And for me, it's how accurate can he be outside the numbers?
And that's the difference. I saw somebody in the chat just saying, well, Vic ran the 4.3 and somebody else ran a fast, and Lamar ran a fast time too. Those dudes were way better passers than Milroe ever was.
They were accurate.
That's the separator. Like I'm not trying to make him a different skill position because of his speed.
Right.
It's because of his throwing. Doesn't match.
Yeah.
It doesn't match in those situations. But to your point about offensive coordinators from college going to the NFL ranks, at some point in time, if they don't start teaching pro-style offenses in college the way a lot of teams in college don't do right now, yes, those guys are going to be tapped. Who was it? Albert Breer just had a long write-up, and he's speaking about defensive players and coaches and mindsets and philosophies. How do you maximize young defensive talent like Philly's doing without having to pay them also before they hit their second contract? So, yes, well, I do think that's a part of it. Chip Kelly's the second domino to fall in that. He came and showed that he can do it in college.
Sure.
So somewhere in their future plans, with them giving him $6 million a year as a coordinator, they will probably tap into a college-based quarterback.
To me, accuracy is the biggest red flag for quarterbacks when they come out of college. And we spoke about that just about a half hour ago, about what red flags do you feel like are fixable or not fixable? To me, if you can't make accurate throws more than 10 to 15 yards away from where you are standing, whether that is horizontally towards the sidelines or over the middle of the field before a safety closes down an angle, over the top of a back shoulder to put the ball in position away from a corner, or even just over the middle in a short pass to put the ball in a position where a wide receiver can catch it and run with it at full speed. That was something Ryan Tannehill, I thought, didn't get enough credit for.
No, for
was
real.
very accurate as an intermediate passer to where A.J. Brown didn't have to slow down when he reached up to catch the football. It was put in a position where he was running at full speed. I don't see that when I watch Jalen Milroe. And similarly to the way Will Levis had a lot of evaluators in the South
Right.
for this fan base who watched a lot of his games in college and knew who he was, I think we can say the same about Jalen Milroe. And Alabama fans, you ask most Alabama fans, Zach Lyons on this radio station is an Alabama fan, does not want any part of Jalen Milroe.
At all.
Because they've watched him miss a lot of throws and wilt in a lot of big moments the way he did against Oklahoma.
Yeah. They are Levising. Alabama fans,
Yeah,
they are Levising Jalen Milroe at this point. They've seen enough. But here's the other part of it, too. They also were of the mindset that they needed to run him.
Yeah.
As an NFL-style
They got
team,
there eventually.
Yeah, they did. They eventually got there.
Yeah.
They eventually got there. But that's something right there, man, that it is very specific for Jalen Milroe. And that sucks because, again, the talent is there.
Bubba and Dixon, one of those Alabama fans who comments on our YouTube channel and says, I am an Alabama fan through and through, but you were able to see what Milroe was in a new system with a new coach who likes to pass. He looked like Levis this year, except it is college, and he was able to make more plays with his legs.
Yeah.
Completely agree.
And the conversation brought up also about Lamar Jackson being accurate in college. Here's what you also had: Lamar's ability to take care of the football and also score in different ways. Lamar Jackson's Heisman year, he completed only 56.2% of his passes, over 3,500 yards. You know where he really took off at, though, Will? 30 touchdowns, 9 interceptions.
Yeah.
And we're not even talking about his legs.
And you can fix accuracy. I don't think there's any issue at quarterback that it's just totally unfixable. Everyone's different.
You know why we can't judge Jalen Milroe versus Lamar?
Why is that?
Lamar had 1,500 rushing yards.
Yeah, no, he was he was a different kind of. He was a Heisman Trophy winner.
I know that Heisman year is nuts when you look at
Louisville.
this.
Like with Louisville.
With
guys.
Louisville.
Like, Alabama had a good offensive line in front of Jalen Milroe. It wasn't perfect.
Man.
In road games, they were not nearly as good as they were at home a lot last season. But that being said, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Plus, if you continue to chase things like that, you're going to draft a lot of bad quarterbacks who can't fix their accuracy. Like, just because one guy fixed their accuracy issues, does that mean that you count on another guy too, just because he's also athletic? These things are rarely as one size fits all as we make them out to be in the NFL,
And
especially a quarterback.
Lamar had the ability to buy himself time to catch up to it the same way Josh Allen has. You spoke about earlier. You saw the dynamic side of Josh Allen. You saw it early with Lamar and his ability to make plays. You buy time to get better that way. Who's given, at this point, Jalen Milroe time to get better from what you've seen in pre-draft and also at Alabama?
Well, I mean, it doesn't feel like he's going to go anywhere and start right away. So, maybe he does get time. We'll see.
Please don't compare Lamar to Jalen Milroe.
No.
That is...
No.
Yeah, no. It's
I'm not doing that one either. 615-737-1045. 3 reasons why Tennessee can make the Final Four. Coming up next. 7:01 from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. Good morning. I am Will Bowling. Today, the NCAA tournament first round officially begins. The Tennessee Volunteers take the court in Lexington against 15-seed Wofford. Tip-off is scheduled for 5:50 p.m. with Vol Network pregame coverage taking over here at 5:15 on 104.5 The Zone. Scouting report on Wofford says they scored 39% of their points from the three-point line. 4 different Wofford Terriers made 50-plus three-pointers this season. The Terriers made 11-plus threes in all 3 of their wins to take home the Southern Conference Tournament. Westwood One's coverage of the NCAA tournament begins right here in The Zone today at 11 a.m. Merry Christmas, everyone. The Houston Texans of the AFC South were very busy yesterday, signing Danielle Hunter to a 1-year, $35.6 million contract extension. That makes him the NFL's second highest paid defensive end. Hunter, last season for the Texans, had 12 sacks. And the Texans are also adding tackle Cam Robinson, who split last season between Jacksonville and Minnesota. He was a second-round pick by the Jags in 2017. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, you need to visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone. Seven a.m. hour 2, getting started on your Thursday morning. RKW, as always, is brewed by Scooters Coffee with locations in White House, Mount Juliet, Rivergate, Smyrna, and Brentwood. You can download the Scooters Coffee mobile app today to order ahead and save $2 off your first mobile order. I did that just the other day at the Mount Juliet location. It got me a waffle bite, sausage, egg, and cheese on 2 little maple waffle squares.
Yeah.
A cinnamon roll that was warm, ready for me. A caramelicious coffee with 2 creams. Because I start with black coffee in the morning, Ramon. I like to switch to the more flavored and creamed coffee.
Okay.
As the day continues.
Okay.
Sue me.
Like to get hit in the face early with the black coffee.
That is absolutely right.
Got you.
Not
fully
a single
understood.
cream in my coffee until this show ends.
Only do one creamer.
That's fair.
Yeah, I see people all the time that just pour in creamer into their coffee. I'm just like, why? Just drink the cream. It's cool.
Yeah, that's right.
Just chase it with coffee at this point.
That is absolutely right. Ryan Shumpert at RockyTopInsider.com writes 3 reasons why Tennessee basketball can make the Final Four for the first time. Vols at Wofford today. The Terriers at 5:50 in Lexington. Of course, you'll hear it right here on The Zone with Vol Network starting at 5:15. Ramon Foster, is Tennessee good enough at the guard position to make its first Final Four run this NCAA tournament?
Yes. More than anything, they have the experience for it. And I do think they're good enough to, specifically with Gainey coming off the bench too. Like, though that component of it for me, I think does more than I feel like any other, more than most teams do in the tournament have. Will, because again, he's a guy that can come in. I think he led points this past weekend in the SEC tournament that lost to Florida in the championship game. Right. Like, he has that ability, not just come in and be a facilitator of points, but also play really good defense. So if Chaz isn't on, hey, it's the time for Meshack to get off the floor, you have the defense still there, a guy that can still chase and still be a part of this, the production of the team. So, yeah, and of course, you know what Zakai is. If Zakai can get to a point to where they are on Chaz or on Gainey, his ability as of late, which has been a part of his game, I saw his high school tape recently, he's been a three-point shooter.
Yep.
He's just hasn't been like the three-point shooter. He can pull from behind the arc, man. So, yeah, they're poised for it, Will, and it's more about the age, as we speak about other teams having older players than anything.
You know, I love the analytics. I love the numbers when it comes to basketball and college hoops specifically. This is one of Rick Barnes' better offensive teams that he has ever had at Tennessee. Ken Palm's offensive efficiency rating has Tennessee the number 18 offense in college basketball this year. That Grant Williams team in 2019 was better offensively. That team, though, was so forward heavy.
Yeah. Yes.
A night in foul trouble for Grant Williams totally took them out of it. It feels to me like Tennessee is more immune to foul trouble and missed shots now
Yeah.
than past Rick Barnes teams. And I think Ryan Shumpert wrote about this. Those guards are hot at the right time right now, moving forward into March. Since Tennessee lost at Rupp Arena in early February, Zakai Ziegler is averaging 15.5 points per game and 7 assists per game. Chaz Lanier is averaging 18.6 points per game on 39% three-point shooting, and Gainey averaging 13.4 points per game. So when Tennessee early in the season would lose, it was because they didn't make shots and they were really bad from three. Well, look at some of their wins, though, down the stretch. Tennessee has March wins over South Carolina, Texas, and Auburn, where they did not shoot well from three in all three of those games and still won. That, to me, and Ryan writes about this at RockyTopInsider.com, is a really big reason why Tennessee could make a Final Four run. Their guards are hot at the right time, but even when they're missing, they're impacting the game in enough other ways to still be successful and get a win.
Yeah, 100%. And the other side of that, too, is the bigs have shown up in ways, Will, to support them more than anything. Like Akpara around the rim has been elite. And whenever you have guys come in and sub and play their role, whether it be Darling Stone, who's a forward, playing and trying to come in, or Igor. Like, that's one thing I think that the SEC tournament exposed. Igor Milichic's ability to be involved on the boards is huge for the guards, too, because he's also a guy that can play outside. You mentioned that Grant Williams and Admiral Schofield matchup. If you had in this year Estrella with the bigs that you have, we're in I almost feel like the Vols could have gotten an easy 1 seed if that was the case, specifically because of the size.
That is what concerns me about this Tennessee team, is their lack of forward depth because of his injury.
Yep.
And JP Estrella, a guy who I think was due for a huge season for Tennessee.
It seems like everybody knew it.
I mean, Cade Phillips has stepped into the role that JP was kind of scheduled to have. And if Cade Phillips didn't really step up to the plate, this Tennessee team probably should have been worse than it was based off of that injury that it had and Cam Carr transferring. They're supposed to have another wing and another guard that could shoot when other guys were off to bring in late, and that way Bishop Boswell wouldn't have to play so many minutes as a true freshman point guard. The other thing Ryan writes, in addition to the guard experience, and for most of its season, Tennessee's offense has gone as its three-point shooting has gone. There's no juggernaut in Tennessee's region, is the other part of this that I think is meaningful. There is no Purdue and Zach Edey. To me, right now, there are 2 1 seeds that you really don't want to play. That's Duke and that's Florida.
Yeah.
And last year, Tennessee was matched up with one of those juggernaut 1 seeds. They got Purdue.
And you know
last year it was Purdue and it was UConn. And unfortunately, you got one of them. Tennessee, because it beat Auburn in the SEC tournament, has a better shot at making a Final Four because they avoided Duke, in my opinion.
And you know what you say that, Will? This is luck of the draw. And there's nothing else behind
part
that.
Of it's luck, and part of it is because you beat Auburn. You played yourself up to being the number 1 overall 2 seed.
Yeah. And again, you mentioned the Edey conversation. That team last year was solid, very solid, man, with the parts that it had to and the bigs and everything else. Also, too, who was the transfer that ended up going to Arkansas?
Jonas Adu.
Jonas Adu. Mm-hmm. Imagine Jonas on this team, too. Jonas, in my personal opinion, this is me saying this, I feel like he got his feelings hurt a little bit last year, and he was going to transfer regardless. If you had him on the squad, gosh, we're talking about a totally different team, man. But to be able to match those bigs, there is no Edey this year. The guy that was supposed to be Edey this year and is Janai Broome, his effectiveness, in my opinion, isn't what Edey can do to a game.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah,
and you beat that guy already, too. You didn't have an opportunity at all to beat Edey last year.
Right.
Foul.
Yep.
Foul, yes. And it was that part, too. It was the
That's what was
fouls.
most annoying last year in that game, was the foul trouble.
100%.
Tennessee very well could have won that game.
They could have, but I mean,
we're on to new tournaments now.
I know, man.
That's in the past.
He
can't hurt us anymore.
He was what he was.
Can't hurt us anymore.
Yeah, he was what he was.
Dalton Connect is still hurt. Did you see that? His bracket, he's got Purdue out in the first round against High Point.
Since you asked, I actually do too.
You do?
Yeah.
Biggest hater?
I actually do too.
I love that, man. Keeping that same energy.
No doubt. For Houston, I think the big question is just the health of Juwan Roberts. That ankle injury for him, 6'8" guy who's best rebounder and one of the leaders of that Houston team, who is one of the only guys left who was on the Final Four team the Cougars had in 2021.
Yeah.
Ankle injury that really kind of held him out of some of that Big 12 tournament. Says that he's back, says that he's taking it day by day. He is not 100%. If Jawan Roberts for Houston is healthy at 100%, then, man, Houston, Tennessee, you're going to need boxing refs to come officiate that one. Roberts missing out would be a huge boost for Tennessee. But, again, they got to get past Wofford and UCLA or Utah State.
Dude, and
and Kentucky.
Their last loss, they've won 13 straight games.
Yeah, they finished the season really strongly.
And even before that, their other loss was from a team that had to play in the play-in with San Diego State. They lost to them earlier in the season. They have been cooking.
They're a good team.
30 wins on the season already,
They are a very, very good team. But saying they are not a juggernaut is not a disrespect to a very good basketball team. In my opinion, they're not on the level of what Purdue was last season.
Yeah, I get that 100%. But, yeah, coming out of that region, though, that the Vols are in, I feel better for sure this year about it. Clemson being sneaky at some point in time, or if they find themselves against this Illinois and Kentucky matchup.
Mm-hmm.
How does Illinois feel? Does Illinois feel the same way about the Vols as the Vols feel about Kentucky?
Man,
let us see you again.
And it's so funny, though, because those are the two Jekyll and Hyde teams in all of college basketball, and they're going to probably play each other in the second round. Illinois, at its best, looks like a Final Four team. At its worst, looks like a 14 seed.
Yep.
Kentucky, at its best, looks like an Elite Eight team to me. At its worst, could get beat by Troy as well. So we'll see. Mark Pope has not had a lot of NCAA tournament success in his very early coaching career. Interested to see how he handles this moment. And also Lamont Butler's health and how that impacts them defensively. Very interesting for sure. When we come back, though, we shift gears back to football and NFL draft. We will hit the draft headlines and continue to draft NFL prospects with Coach Dave McGinnis after this.
It's Ramon Foster, the Wellness Institute of Nashville, man. They have my seal of approval on this deal that could change your life. They have the Behind the Lines offer right now, which is a $37 consultation, and that includes a doctor's visit, x-rays if you need them, and your first treatment. If you need more in-depth treatment, well, because you're part of the Zone family, they will give you 50% off spinal decompression treatment. Dr. Mitchell and Dr. Asher just want you to get better, man. That's what they care about. They know your bodies have taken a beating, whether that be in sports, just life, whatever it is. I'm telling you want to trust them with taking care of your body. They have some of the best technology around, from their lasers that they use, cold lasers they have also, their state-of-the-art decompression machines, to even their zero-gravity machines. They will find the best strategy to get you back to your best. So, yes, you can live a pain-free life, and they have the things that will help you enjoy your life. So start the road to a pain-free life today. Simply reach out to the company I trust at the Wellness Institute of Nashville. You can call 615-246-5009 or go to painisbad.com.
RKW on 104.5 The Zone is brewed by Scooter's Coffee as hour number 2 continues. Ramon Foster, Will Bolden hanging out with you. Kayla Anderson has the morning off as we are joined by Titans Radio's head coach, Coach Dave McGinnis, here presented by our friends at Two Rivers Ford. Mac, what's up? How are you, sir?
Good morning, Will. Good morning, Ramon. Well, just getting ready for a little March Madness while we're wrapping it around some draft prep. That's what this time of year is for me.
Mac, I know it is unfortunate there are no frogs in the NCAA tournament this year, so we will accept you as an honorary VFL for this NCAA tournament run if you would like to be on the bandwagon.
2 nights ago, I was an Alabama State fan.
Oh, okay. Sure.
Where's that too, Mac?
Sure.
Mac is all good.
That was quite the way to kick off March Madness.
Whoa. Sure was.
That was pretty impressive.
Absolutely. Guy from Morristown, Tennessee, who played high school football, throwing the game-winning pass. More you know.
Well, you know what? And the impressive thing to me, and I know we're not you've got a guy, Ron Slade, there that works with all of us, that is the expert on basketball. That is his wheelhouse, and he's outstanding at it. But just from an amateur's point of view, throwing a ball like a basketball the length of the court on a line, that's hard to do.
Yes, it is.
Sure is.
He threw a dime down there where he was supposed to. Now it bounced around, hit a few people, but the presence of mind under the basket to grab it and not even bring it down and put it back in with 1 second left, it was impressive. I mean, that was a great way to start the tournament.
Definitely was. No doubt about it. Coach Dave McGinnis with us, presented by our friends at Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer, Two Rivers Ford. Mac, I want to look at some running backs this morning. That has been our conversation this week. We looked at some with Rhett yesterday as well. As you look at the top of this draft, Mac, and look at where Ashton Jeanty fits into this equation, how rare is his skill set, and what makes him such a rare prospect?
Well, he's a low center of gravity player, first of all, to begin with, and he's got extremely good contact balance. Rhett and I just did a lot of work and recording yesterday, about 10 in the morning to about 4 in the afternoon, and the running back in this draft, when you really start setting your vertical and horizontal board, it really starts to stick out. There are going to be some quality backs throughout this draft, but Jeanty, the thing about him is great contact balance. He's got all the requisite skills you look for. He's got excellent vision, a really good vision runner, and he's a three-phase back. I mean, he's going to be able to play in all 3 downs. When you bring him in. He's an excellent outside zone runner. He's run some counter gap schemes. He's got just about everything that you're looking for. He'll be a first. To me, he and Omarion Hampton will be the 2 first-round picks as backs. But as you get into the belly of this draft, when you start talking about the middle of it, and I'm talking about day 2 and day 3, you're going to be able to find some backs that will be 3-down backs for you. This is really a pretty deep offensive back draft.
It's incredible, Mac, Omarion Hampton, and how many draft classes where he would be the number 1 guy if he wasn't just with Ashton Jeanty. But 2 years in a row, 5.9 yards per carry, 15 touchdowns each of the last 2 seasons, and over 1,500 yards 2 years in a row as well, Mac. A big guy, but he's got a lot of skills as well that you would think of at a smaller back. What do you like the most about Hampton?
Well, again, I mean, just exactly what you said, and really, guys, you talk about whichever one is going to be your flavor to take in the first round. If you go in the first round, I mean, it's for a running back, especially nowadays with the way that offenses are structured. You've got to have some pretty special skill sets, and I agree with you. I think both of those backs have special skill sets, but as I said, there are guys that are after them that you will see going through this draft that it's amazing to me how many backs there are in this draft, and until you really start digging into it, you really don't realize. And it's when you start setting your vertical board, you can just start seeing where the numbers start stacking up, vertically and horizontally. That it's kind of like the edge rushers kind of start sticking out, and the interior defensive linemen start sticking out to you. It's the same way with running backs. But Omarion Hampton, he's a special back. I really believe he'll be a first-round pick.
No doubt about it, Coach Mack. You speak about the offensive backs throughout the course of this draft, man. One of those guys, man, is Trevor Etienne. His brother, Travis, man, has been doing really well in Buffalo. A big addition for them. You look at Trevor's pathway from Florida to Georgia, still have some production. I think in all his years that he's played, he averaged over 5 a pop, Coach Mack. How big of a prospect is Trevor Etienne going into this draft? Is he about 3rd, 4th round draft pick at this point?
Yes, I think that's about right. The thing that you've got to look at when you're looking at running backs, coming out of the collegiate game, the thing that's important to really dig into as an evaluator, what you look at, really, when you start looking at just as you said, the yards per carry, you've got to look at the offense they're in and see if these are earned yardage or if it's so spread out, how many light boxes you're running into. Does that make sense?
Yes.
That's extremely, extremely important because your offenses are spread out so wide now. If it's a lot of clear view runs, that's different because there's not a lot of clear view runs that are given up in the National Football League. You have somebody. That's why I always lean on contact balance to begin with, because the times that you're going to be through a clear view space in the National Football League on a down in and down out issue when you're running the football, those windows narrow a lot in this league. So that's the first thing you look at. But Etienne, I like Etienne because I think he's a multifaceted back, and I agree with you, Ramon. I think that there's going to be a sweet spot. And with the number of backs that there are, there's going to be a run on these backs that's going to happen at some point in the draft, just as it always does with every position, but especially running backs. There's going to be a run on these backs, and I think that Etienne will be in one of those runs, probably on the second day.
Coach Mack, what's fascinating about this running back class this year, you don't have a big back like a tall back. I think the tallest one is Khalil Mullings out of Michigan or Ollie Gordon out of Oklahoma State is about 6'2". These guys in particular seems like this year, Coach Mack, have developed themselves from high school and 7-on-7 and also in the college offense to where their ability to run the football is important, but their secondary skill of being pass catchers, Coach Mack, how much has that transformed over the years as it pertains to draftable running backs and just the expectation of what you need to do in the NFL offense moving forward now, as far as just being a weapon through the air also?
That's a very, very valid point, and it's just it's a result of the way offenses are being played. And here's another result of it. And again, everything has a genesis and everything has a reason for it. But the number and the preponderance now of these players training year round from the high school on up. This 7-on-7, all these 7-on-7 organized leagues now, they're just about in every state for football players in the off season. It's a huge, huge part of it. It really is. I mean, what you've seen develop from that is the number of receiving tight ends. The tight end position has changed a lot, especially in the last 8 years because of that, because of the form and the function of the offenses that are being played. And the running back position is like that too. And I mean, it really is. These guys are catching the ball quite a bit more in all of these things that they're working in the off seasons, and especially in these 7-on-7 leagues, it filters up, and you can see that. So I agree with you. I can start going through this list of guys, and look, Ohio State's got two exceptional backs, two very exceptional complementary backs, Travion Henderson and Quinshawn Junkins, that were leaned on pretty heavily. Were a huge part of being able to win that national championship this year, and they are both multifaceted backs.
No doubt. Coach Mack, with that being said, though, is there still in today's NFL an importance on these young guys coming in and knowing, number one, at least I remember our training camps, backs on backers, Coach Mack, how important is it for them to be able to pick up a blitz still in today's game? Because the college game somewhat has changed the ability to get the ball out quick. Is that still an emphasis?
Yeah, well, and what you're talking about is in the collegiate game, first of all, your field dimensions are different because if you're on a hash, defenses have 3/4 of the field that they have to defend to the wide and the open side of the field. But what you're talking about, it's not only the physical part of just being able to know how to set and how to strike as a pass protector. It's how to identify who you have. That's a huge part of it. That's the part of it that slows backs down quicker coming into the league that running back coaches are charged with in this league. And every protection, as you well know, every protection is different. They have to work hand in glove with what's going on in front of them. But the identification of who you have is just as important as learning how, learning how to be able to just perform the blocking of itself. So all of that is changes depending on what kind of offensive system you're in. But it's a huge part because you know as well as I do, sooner or later there's going to be a time when you're going to have to hold the ball a little bit to throw. Not every down and distance lends itself to an RPO. Not every down and distance gives you the ability to get rid of it very, very quick. You're going to have to be able to identify as a running back, if you're part of the protection, where they're coming from, who you have, how quickly you should release. All of those things are extremely, extremely important. And these running backs are learning how to do it earlier and earlier. But that's the first thing that slows them down when they come into an NFL system is starting to learn to identify and then execute the blocking schemes.
Coach Mack, how hard is it to evaluate Dylan Sampson in the offense that Tennessee runs with how different it is to NFL schemes? And what do you see when you watch him on film?
Well, he's an explosive guy. Look, Dylan Sampson, I know I'm talking to two VFLs, but I watched every Tennessee game very, very, very closely this year because of what I do coach to coach during the season with Doug Matthews. That's what we watch. You know, we dial in on the SEC and we particularly dial in on the Vols. He was the engine this year for that offense. It wasn't the quarterback. It wasn't the receivers. I mean, he was the engine. You look at the number of touchdowns that he produced, and this guy to me, he had excellent vision. But what he did, you talk about being able to find a little crease, to find a little crack, and then once he got out in the open space, this guy can run away from people. But he was also a very, very good high and low red zone runner too. I like Dylan Sampson, and he carried that offense this year. If you really want to be honest and watch the whole thing in sequence like we did.
Mac, when you look at Cam Scattaboo, a really interesting prospect and a guy that didn't run a 40, maybe didn't want a number out there that could have possibly hurt his draft stock. What is the evaluation on him? A guy that is as tough as nails and can catch passes, but might almost have a little Peyton Hillis in him as well, Mac.
Well, he does, and you look at just look at the playoff game that he was in. I mean, he did it all. I mean, and he can do it all. I think he's a running back that has got. I mean, he's a big, thick back. He's a thick back, and the thing about him is he's very, very physical. I mean, that was the horse that the Arizona State Sun Devils rode all year, and I'm talking about a real horse. He's a guy that is very, very durable. I mean, you saw him throw the touchdown pass. I mean, that guy to me, again, he's got those qualities, and I talk about the run on backs. Somebody's going to take him down in the belly of the draft, and he'll probably be on their opening day roster just because he can do so many things well.
Coach Mack, I won't front, man. When we started talking about running backs and protections, and I mentioned training camp and pickups and knowing where to go, that is by far, Coach Mack, the worst segment and learning adjustment in the NFL. It ain't run blocking. It ain't the scheme of the run blocking. Coach Mack, it is the blitz period and training camp that will make you feel like you do not belong, Coach Mack. I don't think people are – it's like reading Chinese, Coach Mack, and how complicated it gets.
I mean, people don't understand, Ramon, that have never been in the guts of it, the intricacies of protection packages. Protection packages are everything, because that is, as a longtime defensive coach and have called defenses and have constructed defenses, that's all you're trying to do is confuse the protection. That is the main focus of almost all defenses. When you get down, first of all, you've got to be able to have the brick and mortar part of it. You've got to be able to stop or abate the run to some point. But the biggest thing that you're trying to do when you get into what defensive schemes are, people talk about schemes all the time, and I don't think they really understand what they're talking about when they just try to lump everything into scheme. But as a defensive coach and as a defensive signal caller, you are trying to confuse protections. And so you're right. That's the one part. And if as a defensive coach, when you're watching tape in preparation for a game, you can tell pretty quick where problems present themselves and what they have. How do they have problems with overloads? Do they have problems with mugging? Do they have problems with identification? That's what you work on trying to do. So from the other side of it, you're 100% right. That's as much mental work as there is at anything else that goes on a football team.
And that's just the shell of it. We're not even talking about the personnel, Coach Mack. Can that guard redirect off a TE? Can that tackle get out of his stance if we run this blitz? And then, and just speaking of training camp, it doesn't stop. The next day, they're going to do it again, Coach Mack. And it's all about exposing you. The NFL is not nice. Football in general, but specifically, the NFL is not a nice business, Coach Mack.
The NFL is brutal in this manner. It just it follows the precepts of nature. You find a wounded animal, that's the one you're going after. Yeah. So you try not to be that wounded animal.
No doubt about it. Coach David Geddes breaks down the film with us here at 7:20 on Thursdays each and every week, presented by Two Rivers Ford. Matt, good to talk to you as always, sir. Thank you so much.
Enjoy the tournament. Go Vols.
Go Vols.
Love it. Yes, sir. Coach Mack.
Clip that. Golly, dude. First day
you
as
had
a rookie.
A tear in your eye.
No.
Single tear.
Will, you think,
talking about blitz
I got a pancake in the run in the run segment? No. You want to talk about just looking like a fool in practice? Get out there and try to pass pro. It is, it's hell.
615-737-1045 if you want to get in before the end of hour two. There is a Titans free agency target that was in town who is now going to play for somebody else. And we'll talk about that next.
We've got the trucks, all the trims, all the towing, all the bells and whistles, and all at Truck Month Savings. Two Rivers Ford is Ford Truck Central.
RKW is brewed by Scooter's Coffee, a 104.5 The Zone. Wrapping up hour number 2. We've got a fresh pot of Scooter Doodle coffee that has been brewed, so it smells like cinnamon and hazelnut and happiness here at the 104.5 The Zone studios. It also smells like happiness because Ron Slade just stopped by.
Go on, say something real
Just
quick.
vibing.
What a hot chocolate say something for the people.
What a hot chocolate is, y'all.
I can't wait to hear your review tomorrow.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be on.
All right.
And he
I love
headed out. What time your big event tonight?
I think we started at 4:15.
4:15, he
in
says.
Lexington? In Lexington? Hold up.
And we in Rupp Arena.
We're going to hear Rocky Top blaring through Rupp Arena speakers all weekend.
As you leave out of here, cuz what?
That's all I know.
That's
Yes,
right.
sir.
That's Ron Slade, everybody. that is going to feel as weird as when the year the Gator Bowl was moved. There it is. Yeah, I love it. The year the Gator Bowl was moved to Gainesville.
Yeah.
There were checkerboard end zones in the swamp.
Love that.
That's what this is, the basketball equivalent of that.
Love that, man.
I love it.
Fantastic. Savage just pops in, and we have impromptus with him. He drops a slogan
So
real
you know
quick.
he likes us.
Have you been
Well, I know
inside?
he likes you.
You've been to no, he loves you too. You're
Oh, I
his
know.
dog. Yeah.
Absolutely.
You've been to TBA recently? To seeing what they've been doing with his voiceover?
Yeah. No, it's awesome, isn't it?
Nuts.
It's so cool.
It is insanely good.
The last game I went to was the Vandy game, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, what was it? Rule
awesome.
the floor is what it was?
Feed the floor.
Feed the floor.
They've been doing that since I was a senior, I want to say.
What they
Grants
dropped
last year? Yeah.
They dropped that Ron Slade. That's all I know at the end
Yeah,
of
it's
it.
awesome.
I caught chills behind that one. That was good.
It's awesome.
That was good.
Feed the floor.
Feed the floor.
I love it. Vols fans will be feeding the floor. There'll be a lot of orange up there in Lexington today.
Yeah, it will be. And you know it's going to be petty,
It's an easy trip.
It's going to be petty.
Oh,
too,
100%.
Of course, 100%.
No doubt. The Minnesota Vikings have agreed to a deal with wide receiver Rondale Moore. They announced yesterday. 24-year-old, according to reports, will compete for the number 3 receiver job behind starters Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. The Titans were reportedly visiting with him yesterday. He lands elsewhere. Ramon, I'm going to be honest.
Yeah.
This kind of makes me want him a little bit more. The fact that he landed with a good organization.
I know what you mean.
Like it's like with the girl you didn't want to go to prom with, and then one of the popular guys asks her, and you're like,
Yeah.
well, wait, maybe I should have wanted it. You would have been a fun time.
You see the beauty.
Wait a minute, you would have gotten me a nice corsage. We could have had the stretch limo.
Yeah.
This would have been. That's kind of how I feel with this. I don't know. It probably my mind should not be changed that quickly because I don't think Rondale Moore would have given much to this team, but it goes to show how bad the wide receiver options are that an organization like Minnesota has to settle for Rondale Moore to add to their wide receiver room.
And again, we heard Rhett speak about him yesterday too. As far as like his pre-draft, like in his All-American year he had in college, it was elite. Like his biggest issues have been injuries, keeping him on the football field. He has the speed. He has a knack for the football when it's thrown his way.
Sure.
You just got to keep him on field. And that same sense, though, where you speak about like Minnesota getting them, so it's just like, well, dang, is she really cute? Like looking at like this Rondale situation, is this though? Like, is Kevin O'Connell himself turning into this new era? Andy Reid, Sean McVay, who's the other gurus that have come upon? I mean, at this point, it was Green Bay's head coach. LaFleur. Like, is O'Connell becoming this where guys that are struggling or the offense that they're running, you're going to be that good? Justin Jefferson is elite. Mm-hmm. But his ability to still pour into Justin Jefferson and make him, how many yards did he have this past year? I mean, think about that. Like, he's the number 1 wide receiver in the world, and he still reels off 1,533 yards last year. Like, it shows you what he's capable of. Yeah. So if he is, right now, Kevin O'Connell, the rehab coach for offensive players.
Yeah, I think he certainly is becoming that guy.
They're going to be tough for years to go, especially if Rondale Moore goes there and have a turn. Like, what if he has, like, Corey Davis last year he had with Tennessee, right at 1,000 yards? Like, that's huge. Now, I know it's a lot to ask.
I don't think
number
he's
3.
that level
Yeah,
player,
he's number 3.
But I do think that he is, when healthy, consistent in the slot. I mean, he's got 40 catches in each of his 3 healthy seasons.
Right.
I'm curious what the Elijah Moore timeline looks like, the former Ole Miss wide receiver who is still only 24 years old. To me, he is who I'm most interested in. Him and Keenan Allen. I know 2 very different profile players. Again, Keenan Allen's got to be interested in you as well.
Yeah, that's very true.
But Elijah Moore will only be 25 this next season. We're talking about a lot of wide receiver prospects that we will see as fixes for the Titans at wide receiver 2, who are almost 25.
And again, he has what you're looking for. Young, can be productive if you can have him out there, man.
Never played
and
for a winner. Not that this organization is right now either, but
I mean, opportunity is what this organization has,
for sure.
too. And then also in the last couple of years, there's been instability at quarterback too for the Cleveland Browns, and before that, it was unstable as hell too for the Jets. So, what does a good version of him look like if you get the quarterback? Now, again, one thing we can say about Cam Ward has been what? He can get the ball out. He's going to find ways to create if you allow him some protection. And that's where with a guy like Elijah Moore at 25 years old in the next 7 days, well, you got to kick the tires. And he also would have to see this as an opportunity, too, because, again, you put him with Calvin Ridley. I mean, you got something there, right? You got a guy that's able to get open quick. And if Cam Ward can throw that little quick out route that he has in his arsenal, you cook.
Elijah Moore, 4.35 when he came out of the University of Mississippi. 5'9", 178, and someone that would certainly bring explosion and speed to the Titans wide receiver room at the slot position specifically.
I'd kick the tires on him. And if they could, you definitely need to go try
I think
to get him.
he's the first choice.
Yeah, at this point, way before Keenan Allen for me. I'll be honest with you.
No, I agree.
Yeah, I know what you meant too. Keenan's ring chasing at this point. I think he's going to be a late summer signing for the most part.
Maybe. Depends on what his market is, and depends on how many of these other guys land elsewhere. Like if there's a free agency run on receivers.
I was going to ask you, what is Keenan Allen still? Like, what was he in Chicago last year? If you could get the down the sideline passes here and there. Like
he was still decent.
Yeah, he was.
I mean, he wasn't, a 1,000-yard receiver like he was with, San Diego / LA through his career. But last season, Keenan Allen still was 744 yards and is only 2 years removed from 1,200 yards. I would stay away for the Titans. I know I just said he's the second choice. Yeah, because there's not any other really good ones that I like. I'm kind of overpaying 33-year-old receivers.
I was going to say, is this D-Hop 2.0 then?
I think it could be.
Okay.
But again, D-Hop gave you one good year.
Is this the second year of D-Hop is what you're getting out of him?
No, I don't think it is. I think this is more this could be more of a year one D-Hop. You just take the risk of all these guys being Julio Jones or year two DeAndre Hopkins when you rely on them, because the fall off that these receivers have in their 30s is so fast. Like, life comes at you very quick, doesn't it, at the wide receiver position?
Yes, it does. The only reason I bring up, will you get year two D-Hop in Tennessee, is because I feel like Keenan Allen has already given year one D-Hop to Chicago. You see what I'm saying? Like, he's already dealt with the young quarterback.
Hasn't played a full season since 2019, Keenan Allen.
Yeah.
He's always hurt.
Always.
Or excuse me, 2021, that was 17 games. So, since 2019.
And when that starts to happen, it's hard to reel it back in, my brother.
615-737-1045. Second half of the show and hour 3 next. We'll run through the NCAA tournament games that you will A, hear here on the Zone, or B, be watching today. I'll give you some upset specials. I've got one, Ramon, in the early window of games. The second game of the tournament that might be one of the biggest upsets of the tournament, and we'll talk about that next.
Did you know you're overpaying for your health and wellness products?
With over 20 company-owned brands offering its members vitamins, supplements, wellness, and skincare products, you're able to save up to 70% off retail.
Members Nutrition can't change your life, but we can change the way you live.
8:02 from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. Good morning. I'm Will Bowling. Xavier rallies past Texas 86-80 last night in the NCAA tournament. First four behind 22 points from Marcus Foster. The Musketeers erased a 13-point deficit in their biggest comeback win this season, advancing to the NCAA tournament first round to take on 6-seed Illinois in the Midwest region on Friday night in Milwaukee. After the game, Jeff Goodman with the reports that Texas is expected to move on from head coach Rodney Terry, saying sources tell the Field of 68 they're likely to make a move after 2 straight years of barely making the NCAA tournament and getting bounced in the first 4 this year. Terry took over after Chris Beard was fired midseason a few years ago. The NCAA tournament begins today for the Tennessee Volunteers, who take on Wofford at 5:50 p.m. You'll hear Vol Network pregame coverage begin right here at 5:15 on The Zone. Westwood One's coverage of the NCAA tournament begins today at 11 a.m. with Creighton and Louisville, the first matchup from Lexington and Rupp Arena for the NCAA tournament. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, you need to visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone. Brewed up by Scooter's Coffee for 2 more hours on Friday, Junior. Thursday morning edition of the program. Ramon Foster and Will Bowling with you. Kayla's got the morning off. Justin Hawkins behind the controls, spinning the hits. Ramon, I've got an upset special for the people.
Straight up.
Coming up at 11:40 p.m. today on True TV.
Ooh, I see what you're doing here, Will.
High Point and Purdue. And let me give you the numbers behind it. A 13 seed has become a very popular pick in the NCAA tournament as of late.
Gross.
Since 2018, a 13 seed has beaten a 4 seed 7 times. In 2021, 2 of them won. When North Texas beat Purdue and Ohio upset Virginia. Last year, you know, the 13 seed to get a W?
What was it?
That would be Yale over
well,
4th seed at Auburn. A 78-76 win. Sorry to all the Tigers fans listening around Nashville this morning. Purdue is awful defensively. I mean, just absolutely wretched. 350th in 2-point field goal percentage allowed. High Point, 15th in America in 2-point field goal percentage on offense. The Panthers of High Point, one of the deepest teams in the country. I think High Point over Purdue is your very early in the NCAA tournament upset special today.
Just like that, really? And they didn't have a succession plan for Zach Edey, is what you're telling me, Will?
Well, they just can't play defense.
They can't play defense.
They probably had a succession plan. It just hasn't, gone to plan. I guess they don't get foul calls every time down the floor anymore, the way they used to with Zach Edey.
It's crazy how that trend stops after a certain point, ain't it,
really
man?
Is.
I am looking at this slate today and trying to figure out where is the upset going to come. You got the Purdue. You have this Purdue game right here in High Point, and they're bringing what to the table, though, in general, Will, as far as
experience.
Experience. Mm-hmm. The one that I saw most folks talking about was actually the Yale-Texas A&M game. Now, I think Texas A&M is very strong as it pertains to their bigs and their experience, and also their coaches, too.
That's a popular one as well.
13, yeah. Yep. I've seen that one. I doubt that A&M gets caught up in the jam with this one, and I don't know. I'll be real with you. My bracket had no upsets this round. And I know that's unrealistic. That's unrealistic. I know it's unrealistic, but I knew that when I filled it out. I felt weird. You ever had that, this doesn't feel right
You're
moment?
I need to change some things because it's too many low numbers making it. Yeah.
The biggest one was probably Gonzaga, Georgia. I do think Gonzaga's going to get Georgia, but, I can't see, is that really an upset, 8 versus 9?
Well, I think Gonzaga might be Houston.
Gonzaga,
depending on the health of Houston's big man.
Really?
Yeah.
So is that your only upset in the first round?
No.
As far as you can see it.
I'm going to give you a couple more here. I usually have too many upsets. A couple more interesting matchups, Ramon, for you. At 12:30 today on TNT, Wisconsin takes on Montana.
Montana?
Now, I am not going to pick Montana and Money Williams, the electric guard for the Grizzlies, to get this win. But if I'm a Wisconsin fan, I am not happy about the fact that I just played 4 games in 4 days across the country. Not only am I playing in an early window on Thursday, I'm in Denver at altitude in the early window on Thursday. That is a very quick turnaround for a Wisconsin team that is very reliant on three-point field goals. 37% of their points come from threes. If they have tired legs after 4 games in 4 days of the Big Ten tournament, Montana is a good three-point shooting team. They only have one 6'8" guy. They're not very big.
So they're moving.
Montana.
Yeah.
They will take a lot of threes. They will take a lot of shots. Money Williams is electric. They played Tennessee earlier this season. He's the one that lit up the Vols. Just absolutely lit up Tennessee. Wisconsin lost 3 of their last 5 games of the season, got hot in the Big Ten tournament. I would at the very least pick Montana to cover if I was looking at the number in that game.
So I'm listening to you speak about this Williams kid, right? This Williams player, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, you mean Monty Williams?
No, I mean Money.
Money is what he's listed as. Shout out to Bert Camp on that.
That's
one.
right.
And he's also, it's 13.3 points a game. Well, he's not doing much but shooting the ball, is what you're telling me.
He's very fun.
Well, all right. I didn't have that one on my. I have to pull my bracket up. Will.
He's the one that Tennessee fans raised $50,000 for.
Oh,
on the GoFundMe.
Okay.
Yeah. So the Tennessee fans helped raise money for him after he lost his mother and father in the last year, leaving him and his sister Monet responsible for their 3 younger siblings. Also incredible, his name is Money and his sister's name is Monet, spelled the same way with an apostrophe in the middle of it.
Love that.
Love it so much.
I'm being honest with y'all. Those are the storylines we need right here more than anything, man.
Yeah, super cool.
First round, Will. I'm out here tripping. I went chalk on every single one of them too. I'm pretty sure. Tennessee over Wofford, Utah State. No, I had Utah State over UCLA. I had Utah State over UCLA.
That's not really a huge upset, though.
Well, it's 10 versus 7.
Yeah, that's
you didn't say what
like
level of upset.
Like I said, Utah State UCLA is an interesting one because Mick Cronin and UCLA play so slow.
Yeah.
Just they want to slow you down and grind it out as much as possible. Utah State's zone against that offense will be an interesting matchup. I'm still not even done, though. Because I've got more matchups that could be upsets today. I'm full of them.
You are the madness that people speak about.
I've got a deep bag
television.
of potential upsets. Missouri and Drake is a really interesting game. And speaking of teams that want to slow you down, Drake is one of the slowest paces, if not the slowest pace in America, in all of college basketball. They make a lot of twos. They're solid on defense. They force a lot of turnovers, but they also turn it over a lot. Missouri, to me, is one of the most fascinating teams in the SEC coming into this tournament. Because if they can get hot, if Caleb Grill starts just absolutely firing threes from 30 feet, to me, they're a really interesting team. They don't turn it over a lot. They shoot pretty well, but they lost 4 of their last 5 games. Missouri did.
Very true, too.
To Kentucky, Oklahoma, Vanderbilt, and Arkansas. What's the common denominator between 3 of those teams? Desperation. 3 out of those 4 teams had to win down the stretch in order to make the NCAA tournament. To me, that gives a little bit of grace to a Missouri squad that just ran into some squads that had to win late in the season. I do think Missouri wins that game at 6:35 tonight on True TV, but stylistically, the outside shooting of Missouri against the grinded out, slow you down Drake, who survived the Missouri Valley Conference this year, and I saw a lot of those teams play Belmont. It's a good conference. Drake is a really good team.
Yeah, I picked Missouri in this matchup right here just on the basis that their coach went through hell last year. I mean, just not winning the game, right?
Dennis Gates.
Like, here's an opportunity for that squad. I know Savage is big on Dennis Gates as a coach, too, and their philosophy as a team, man. I can't see them, especially if Caleb Grill, he's also made his haircut better, too. He's got a new barber, and you can tell.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's not just
NIL
a square.
Deal?
Yeah, NIL deal. He's got a better haircut these days. But his ability to shoot the ball around the perimeter, man, is unmatched across the league. They have one of those types of guys. So I just can't see them falling in this one. You didn't pick them to fall either, but no. I think Missouri gets this one. I wonder, can they speed up the pace? Can you actually speed up
sure. Can you speed up Drake?
Team? Yeah.
And then one more. Michigan, UC San Diego. This is really sad for Beerbone.
Why is that?
This is a 9 p.m. tip-off. in the line of work that we are in, I don't know if I will have the facilities for a 9 p.m. tip-off tonight to watch this entire game. I think UC San Diego will upset Michigan tonight. This is the most popular 12-5 upset, I think, in the whole tournament. This one in Liberty, Oregon. But I think they do it. You talk about style matchups. I love games like this where one team is tiny and one team is huge. That's what this game is. UC San Diego has won 15 straight games. Michigan won 3 in a row to win the Big Ten tournament. They were underdogs in all 3 games. Michigan's got 2 7-footers. Danny Wolf and Vlad Golden, who you'll remember was the 7-footer on FAU when they upset the Vols in the Sweet 16 a couple of years back. They make a lot of their 2s, but they also, a lot of turnovers. UC San Diego, solid defensively. They are a 3-point heavy team. They don't turn it over much. They have 1-6-8 guy who plays. UC San Diego does. They got a lot of guards. Guard-heavy team against a team with 2 7-footers in Michigan.
To your point about this, just looking at the spreads of these games, there's 3 games that have a 2.5 spread on it, 2.5-point spread. That's the Louisville-Creighton, which is 8-9. It's VCU versus BYU at -2.5 to BYU. And the last closest game, to your point about this being an upset alert, this UC San Diego and Michigan. Michigan is only favored by 2.5 points to win this game. Yeah. It's a 5 seed versus 12. That is saying a lot. I ain't even look at that side of it, Will.
Sure.
But you bet Michigan? You betting plus 2.5?
I think UC San Diego wins the game.
Plus 2.5.
I really do.
You got them in your bracket that way?
I do.
Okay. Let's make sure you're not just talking out here, Will.
And they have got a very electric player from New Zealand. From UC San Diego was. All right, this name is going to trip me up.
Come on.
We have Aniwa Tate Jones. Aniwa Tate Jones. There you go. That is the one shining moment name that you will be hearing tonight if you stay up. Aniwa Tate Jones from Wellington, New Zealand. 6'6" senior small forward.
Averaging almost 20 a game, too.
Electric player.
Tate is not the American Tate either. It's T-A-I-T.
Yeah, that's right. Anyway, so the UC San Diego Electric Factory is the Tritons is their nickname. Tritons.
So what's that? 2 upsets you got on your bracket?
Oh, well, I've got way more than that, but I'm just giving you today.
For tonight.
We're only talking about today.
Yeah,
of those, since you asked, the ones that I picked High Point over Purdue, and I picked UC San Diego over Michigan. Those are the only 2 I picked out of the ones we discussed. I'm just giving you upset potential along the board. That way the people can draw their own conclusions. So, there you go. 615-737-1045. Back to the NFL and Titans discussion when we continue. Charles Davis had the point on our show yesterday that maybe drafting a quarterback actually helps the head coach's job security. Would Brian Callahan get a mulligan season again if you drafted Cam Ward and you wanted to keep those 2 together? That's next. Hey, it's Will Bowling. Is your home's air conditioning ready to keep up with the warmer months ahead? Hey, we've already had a sneak peek of some spring temperatures. It always happens before you know it. Here in Middle Tennessee, it gets colder again. Then it's going to get warmer again before you know it, and you need to be ready. Our friends at Lee Company have you covered. One of their expert technicians will perform a 22-point inspection as well as seasonal cleaning and maintenance to help you stay ahead of Mother Nature. And here in Middle Tennessee, you never know on any given day or even afternoon what Mother Nature is going to throw at you. Right now, enjoy $30 off your next air conditioning visit. Don't let your AC fail this spring and summer. Head over to leecompany.com to schedule your appointment today and get $30 off. For the folks with over 80 years of experience, they've been trusted to this community since 1944. You've seen their fleet of vehicles driving around, over 1,000 of them in that fleet of vans and trucks for Lee Company. 615-567-1000. That's how you get in touch with them, or head online to leecompany.com. That's Lee Company, all you need. RKW is brewed by Scooter's Coffee on 104.5 The Zone as Hour 3 rolls on, and you get any of our discussions this morning wherever you download podcasts at 10 o'clock, wherever you get audio. You get Ramon, Kayla, and Will. This morning you get Ramon and Will. Kayla's got the morning off. She'll be back with us next week. 615-737-1045 is the number, Ramon, as we go back to Titans discussion.
Yeah.
Because there's something really interesting that Charles Davis said on our show yesterday about job security, head coaches, and rookie quarterbacks. This was NFL Network and VFL. Charles Davis talking about how drafting a young QB could actually give you more time as a head coach.
You'll quietly hear the head coach has got an extension because they believe in him doing that. I don't think in any of these three cases we're going to have that. Not always because people don't believe in him. Brian Callahan is just his second year, and it's brand new management. Yes, Chad Brinker was here, but Chad wasn't in control like he is now. So that's different, right? Mark Margone's in his first year as a GM. So there's no extension coming. They all have to prove things to each other. Okay? Cleveland, they just got an extension last year. They're not getting an extension this year. Okay? All right, that's not happening. And then, of course, obviously, we're talking about the Giants. Well, there's a reason there's no off-season hard knocks this year. We saw what happened. Too much too much was, it was great theater for us. But all you hear in the off-season is the man told him twice that Saquon was valuable to them. And they didn't keep him. Now, I still don't think the reason they got rid of him was wrong. It just worked out in the worst possible manner for the Giants. And so everybody's like, yeah, we're not going to do that. So none of them are in a position where extensions are part of it, even if you get a rookie quarterback. But at the same time, who are they going to play at quarterback? If you're Cleveland right now, who's your starting quarterback in game 1 in September? If you're the Titans, are you starting Will Levis? Do you want to? And then if you flip it over to the Giants, Daniel Jones is long gone. I know Tommy DeVito just got an extension. Okay, that's a fun story. All right. But if you're going to trot him out there on opening day and say he's your guy, then everyone ought to be getting a moving van ready right then and there.
So that's Charles Davis yesterday here on the show. If you missed that full conversation, it is podcasted and on the 104.5 The Zone YouTube page as well. Ramon, for this coach, for this quarterback, this owner, and this specific franchise, how would drafting Cam Ward impact Brian Callahan's job security?
It takes away his excuse of it not being his guy, first and foremost. It takes away his excuse of, well, this is the offense I like to run. Like, if Cam Ward is the guy that they draft, or Shedeur, well, let's just throw that in there too. If either one of those quarterbacks is his pick, he now gets the first real opportunity to pretty much, I'll be honest with you, Will, he can pull a Gerard Mayo in a sense. And that could also stab him in the back too. Like, if Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders is drafted here and they have success, but it's not 8 wins, if it's not 9 wins, and at that point, I feel like they'll end up pulling the rug from underneath them in the sense of saying, well, you showed us he's good enough, but we don't believe in you. Like, the thing that for me with Callahan is this: it's not just the offense that has to work; it's the entire team dynamic. Now, what he did do last year with all the losing that the Titans had, he still had the locker room, and I feel like all the way up until like maybe the last 2 weeks, because Jeff always said it. Other guys always spoke about how good the locker room was too. But again, if he doesn't get the quarterback to look competent, I feel like he's gone. I don't even know if he gets to re-sign and redo this over again, specifically because the part that Charles brought up, the management team that's over him also.
Sure. Danny on YouTube writes in, says, if you draft Cam and don't win 7 or 8 games, Callahan is gone. Do you agree with that?
I do agree with that. I don't think, and Charles stated that too, I don't think this scenario is like Cleveland's was.
Yeah. I don't think 7 or 8's the number. I think it's 5, to be honest with you.
For what reasons, though?
They've admitted it's a rebuild for the first time.
But
you're not getting baited and switched on expectations anymore. If you win 5 games this season with a bunch of older players on one-year deals and a rookie quarterback that's messing up and learning in real time, again, not all 5-win seasons are created equally. If they win 2 out of their first 3 and then fall apart, then 5 wins could get Brian Callahan fired. But if they do what Detroit did at the beginning of the Dan Campbell era and they start 1-8 and then they rattle off 4 wins over the last couple of months of the season, then like Mike Keith would tell us all last season, the arrow would be pointing up.
Right.
The arrow of Titans' trajectory simply has to be pointing up by the end of the season for Brian Callahan to still be the head coach this time next year for me.
So just looking at the opponents that they're going to have to face this year, where are the wins that are going to come that satisfy saying, yes, we took a step in the right direction? Because, again, yes, you're right about the Dan Campbell situation, but Dan Campbell's start was also with having Jared Goff, a guy that they believed in had already been in this league for a while. Like, we're talking about a rookie. Like, does Coach Brian Callahan as a head coach have the capabilities of making Jaden Daniels? If we're comparing it to that, does he have the capability and the support to get behind a quarterback the way Cincinnati did with Joe Burrow? Because Zach Taylor went through the exact same thing. To be fair, he went through the exact same scenario,
and Joe Burrow got hurt right away too.
So did that buy him more time?
Probably, yeah.
And that's what I'm thinking more than anything. I'm thinking Burrow being hurt bought him more time.
So in 2025, the Titans, again, a reminder of the schedule, in addition to the AFC South, at home, you play the Chargers, Chiefs, Patriots, Rams, Saints, and Seahawks. Away from home, you play Arizona, Denver, Cleveland, San Fran, and Vegas.
And the issue that you're going to run into is like games like Denver, where it's young versus young quarterbacks. Mm-hmm. How bad or how good would you look against Sean Payton, right? Or, again, let's go same scenario, different team, the Patriots.
Or even just the division. Yeah. Patriots in the division are going to be are weighted heavily because there is still a lot of bad football in the AFC South.
It is.
And getting back to average, which is the next step this organization is going to have to take, will look like beating Indy and Jacksonville again. Houston's one thing, and you actually beat Houston last year as your AFC South win, but in order to get back to where this franchise wants to be, they have got to rise above the garbage juice that is Colts and Jags moving forward into the season, because they are asking a lot of the same questions in those cities as we are. Not as much at Indy, but in Jacksonville, they just have their quarterback is the difference.
And even with that, that's what I was going to go to next. I'm always pointing my finger. I talk with my hands way too often over the radio airway. The issue that I feel like Coach Brian Callahan is going to deal with is, yes, Liam Cohen has inherited a franchise quarterback already that is somewhat proven or at least got experience in this league. But also, I think one of the bigger determining factors in does he keep his job or not is can he be competitive with a new first-year head coach in Liam Cohen and the Jacksonville Jaguars also. Because if you're throwing them both in the same pot and you want this team to be competitive in the AFC South, I think, honestly, with where they are, the Jags are the measuring stick. Can you sweep them or at least split or be competitive against the new blood and Liam Cohen going to the Jacksonville Jaguars? Because if he's as good as they say, then you expect Trevor Lawrence to be that good too. And then that's when you start to get panic. Do you have the right guy to lead this organization, specifically if you go get Cam Ward too? That's where it becomes problematic for Cali.
So if let's say Cam Ward is closer to his floor than his ceiling, if Cam Ward gives you Will Levis performances in 2025, and what I mean by that is if Cam Ward loses you games because he's making really bad mistakes and turning the ball over, does that get Brian Callahan fired?
But see, here's the thing. Cam Ward ain't even under the same veil as Brian Callahan. I think Cam Ward is going to be given, if he's the quarterback that's drafted here and make a bunch of rookie mistakes, i.e. Will Levis turnovers, not in that fashion, I think you look at him and say, well, we ain't got the right coach for him. It ain't
right. Yeah. I get that.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, we talk a lot about last season, how Will Levis kind of ruined it for everyone else.
Right.
Titans should have been 2-0. at the beginning of last season. Will Levis made sure they weren't. Now, special teams played a role in it. Obviously, the defense wasn't perfect. Like, they could have done more. But let's be honest. We can be real about this. Yeah. Will Levis lost them 2 games at the beginning of last season. If Cam Ward loses you games, does Brian Callahan get another mulligan to say, well, I got to work with a quarterback who is ruining it for the rest of us?
No, he doesn't.
I don't think he does either.
He doesn't.
Because even if it is Cam Ward throwing 15 interceptions as a rookie in Nashville, because he's going to be your quarterback. We can play the song and dance of, we don't know for sure. No, we know.
Yeah.
Cam Ward is your quarterback.
Yeah.
Now. We can go ahead and just start printing the jerseys now, honestly. Get a head start on the back orders. That'll happen as soon as he's picked. But to me, if I'm maybe Adam Strunk, if I'm Mike Bergonzi, if I'm Chad Brinker, that organization, I'm sitting there saying, you are a quarterback guru coach we brought in to fix quarterbacks. And no matter what the mistakes are, it's your job to fix them. Easily. So, again, is the arrow on Cam Ward's stock pointing up by the end of next season? Because that's going to play a part in this too. If Cam Ward gets worse, if Cam Ward regresses, or if Cam Ward has some mistakes early but leads you to some wins and shows you flashes of brilliance, to me it is pivotal that you keep him with his head coach and you keep those two together, Ward and Callahan.
The things, to your point, the things that will keep Coach Callahan his job, in my opinion, is going to be streaks. Streaks of good games for Cam Ward, even if they lost, though. Even if they lost, right? Because, again, we say the talent isn't where you need to do. There's a lot that needs to be replenished with this team. If there are streaks with Cam Ward having good games, even in close losses, losing with pride matters.
Like Drake May this year for the Patriots.
Yes, sir. Yeah. And the other part, Will, is this. Can he do something that the last coach hadn't done in a while, too? We're talking about win multiple games in a row.
Sure.
If Callahan at any point in this season can reel off, even if it's 2 segments, he can get 2 in a row and then 3 in a row later with sprinklings of, yes.
That matches your whole win total.
It matches. It's nuts right there to even think about. But like consecutive wins, that right there I think saves him more than anything. And despite the opponent, too.
We left last year's Patriots-Titans game, leaving that stadium saying, man, the Patriots stink, but wow, they got a quarterback. Oh. That's what we need to be saying leaving the stadium next season for Brian Callahan to still have a job. We need to trust in the plan that he has for the new quarterback. And if this team is winning a bunch of games 10-9 or 16-13, then maybe 5 wins doesn't keep you around. But to me, I think he is going to get the benefit of the doubt because it is critical to not give Cam Ward 2 head coaches in 2 seasons.
Facts.
I think he is going to get more grace, Callahan, than if they signed a quarterback because they want to keep him with a rookie who is still moldable. So to answer the point of the whole topic and the question that we asked based on Charles, I agree with him. I do think that having a rookie quarterback and having a young quarterback is going to help Brian Callahan keep his job here. I really do.
It can, but the coaching side of his job has to take big steps. I saw people saying earlier in our chat and on Twitter too, it was okay, but like it's hard to coach up a bad team. Like, yeah, he was given lemons big time. But there you have the ability to buy sugar and water over there to make some lemonade out of it. Like at some point, you are paid to coach. Like, yes, talent matters big time. Talent matters. I told you I heard the podcast with Nick Saban. He said he never recruited a bad player. That's very true. But in the NFL, it's the top 1%. At some point, the talent that you're looking for is there. It's a matter of what can you do psychologically, honestly, socially for your players, and as a philosophy for your team. Like, we couldn't tell you what the Brian Callahan philosophy was in year 1 specifically. It was supposed to be through the air.
Supposed to be.
Supposed to be.
And then it became a run-first offense because that's all they could do successfully.
And maybe that's smart on him by saying, we got to pivot. But that's not what we were sold and promised.
It's not. When you're a quarterback coach, your quarterback's supposed to be good.
Yes.
And neither of the ones here were. And I do think that Brian Callahan deserves some blame for that. Like, Mason Rudolph had one of his worst seasons here last year.
Yeah.
He was better in Pittsburgh and led you guys to the playoffs in Pittsburgh. Sure. We didn't see a lot of that here.
Did not see
I know the offensive line wasn't very good, but
still.
He also threw the ball to the other team.
But that's why I will always put the fire to the foot of the coach, or the feet of the coach. I said foot. The feet of the coach. coaches. Like, they have to do their job too.
They do. I just the point I want to make is, imagine if we had just covered a Sam Darnold in Nashville press conference. There would be a level of expectation when you pay a quarterback $100 million.
Yeah.
That expectation does not exist when you are starting a quarterback's career. If you had signed Sam Darnold, I think the expectation would have been at least 7 or 8 wins this year. At that point, then I do agree with Danny's comment on YouTube. That, yeah, if you had signed a good, expensive quarterback, you better win and you better do it now and show us that you can work with it, because that's the guy we went and bought for you. But Cam Ward is different because you can only draft who is available for you to draft. And I think Callahan deserves time to work with Cam Ward and help him progress.
You know how you said you felt about Rondale Moore earlier? Mm-hmm. Albert has this SI.com article where he has an excerpt from Sam Darnold. I now want Sam Darnold. I ain't gonna lie to you. It's too long to read on air right now. We'll see if we can find time to put this excerpt out here. It's like 2 paragraphs long.
Yeah.
It's 2 paragraphs long. And if you listen to Sam Darnold, and this is also in hindsight,
sure,
this seems to be the guy that this franchise needed.
I think so. I thought so all along.
You did, and
that's why I wanted to trade back and sign him.
Listening to him talk in this Albert article is elite.
Way too much is made over committing long-term money to him. It's a 3-year deal. Yeah. What long-term money? It's a lot of money to pay him, but
wins though.
Yeah,
is what you're buying.
Yeah, you actually
sustainability,
have legitimate quarterback play, not a question mark that could be great or could be Will Levis again.
Ooh.
Jason in Murfreesboro up next to the phone. Say, Jason.
Hey, guys. 2 things. I was just going to talk about, y'all talking about Joe Burrow earlier about how he got injured, so it gave Zach Taylor more time, but he also made it to Super Bowl, so I feel like that's why he's got more time with this team as well.
Yeah.
But my thing with Cam Ward is, I think with Brian Callahan, he deserves a shot with his quarterback, like the one he wants to choose. Like, I don't think it's real fair to have him with Will Levis as long as Cam Ward is not doing like boneheaded plays like Will Levis did to lose games, then I can understand. But if it's boneheaded plays, then he don't have a lot of time with Cam Ward.
Right.
So I think he should go with Cam Ward. I don't think Cam Ward would want to go to the Giants just because, to me, I feel like he's more of a homebody. He's more closer to Miami, Florida. Like some people, you know how they want to.
It becomes regional.
Be kind of closer. Yeah, they want to be closer to home. So I think you should give him a shot, and I think Cam Ward will. If he looks up to he looks up to Stephen there, maybe he wants to show people like, hey, I'm the next, not next. No, it's not so much the next Steve McNair, but I want to prove something.
Yeah, thank you, Jason. Appreciate the call.
I know what you mean by that for sure.
And he's not from Miami; he's from Texas, but
from Big X.
Yeah, that's right. I listened to his whole catalog while I was working out yesterday. I meant to tell you that
going on it.
No, the whole point about Zach Taylor keeping his job, of course, he made the Super Bowl in year 2, but that Bengals team was 4-11-1 in 2020.
Yeah.
So that's what we're talking about. Is he kept his job after 2020 because Joe Burrow got hurt, and who one of those 4 wins was against?
Well, who?
Your Tennessee Titans.
Don't do this.
I went to that game as a fan. As a Titans fan.
It's not a bad drive.
No, it's not. You just have to go to Ohio.
Drive through Kentucky State Troopers.
Those people, and I do mean those people, were vicious.
Tell me about it.
They were, I'm serious. No, Bengals fans then acted like they had the success that they do now.
Listen, dog.
Which they did last year. That was as bad. Like, I'm serious. I've been to a lot of SEC road games. Those fans are not nice.
You get it now. Now you see this.
Those fans are terrible.
This AFC North thing, it ain't just, now you get different. It. Now you get it.
It is different. That was a Jonathan Joseph special, that game in 2021.
Oh, yeah. Dang.
He was still playing corner.
Sure was.
Dark times. 615-737-1045. Open for your reaction to the Cam Ward and Brian Callahan conversation. Plus, I love food and I love golf. And those two things intersect for a magical moment every single year. We'll talk about that a little bit next.
It's Ramon Foster for United Structural Systems. Good people, man, with all the rain we've had and just the cold spells we have, man, your concrete may be moving around your house. Maybe it's your sidewalk, man, your driveway cracked and sinking, or your porch steps. Maybe they have moved on you. Shifting concrete can create a dangerous situation, just trip hazard around your home. It's also just a big eyesore. Whatever is going on with your concrete, listen to me. Call United Structural Systems. Ask them about their polyurethane foam injections. You've heard about USS for a long time. It's the same company that's provided superior foundation repair and waterproofing to Middle Tennessee since 1994. Well, guess what? They can also fix your sunken or settling concrete. USS uses polyurethane foam injections to lift and repair your concrete in a matter of minutes. Lifted concrete, cool part right here. It can be walked on immediately after it's done or even driven on after 30 minutes. So don't go through that long, expensive process of ripping out and replacing concrete. Reach out to the company I trust, and that's United Structural System at USSTN.com. That's USSTN.com, or call them at 615-488-7855.
RKW brewed by Scooters Coffee with locations in Mount Juliet, White House, Rivergate, Smyrna, and Brentwood. Download the Scooters Coffee mobile app today to order ahead and save $2 off your first mobile order. Been talking about how Cam Ward impacts Brian Callahan's job security on the show this morning. Dennis in Lebanon is up next on the phones. Hey, Dennis.
Morning, y'all.
Morning.
Morning.
I just think you're leaving something out about this whole discussion. Last year, the O-line that we had, I think, played a big deal with our record. And this year, we got a totally different O-line. Would Cam Ward have done a whole lot better with that line last year? And, would Levis have done any good if he would have had this year's line?
Right.
I just think that plays a big part in the wins. I don't think you can just blame it on the quarterbacks.
Thank you, Dennis. I agree with you. I do agree with a lot of what you said. I do think Will Levis would be better behind this line than last year. No question. I also don't think Cam Ward would have had much success behind last year's O-line. No question. But two things, though. That's not the hand we were dealt.
Oh.
It is what it is. NFL's not fair. And secondly, I think Will Levis contributed to how bad that line was. Mason Rudolph last season, we've given this stat a lot, 283 pass attempts. Mason Rudolph took 15 sacks. That's 15 sacks on 283 pass attempts. Will Levis, on 301 pass attempts, took 41 sacks last season. There is a stark contrast between Levis's pocket presence taking sacks and Mason Rudolph's. And I know Cam Ward's not Mason Rudolph, but goes to show, I don't think that O-line was as bad, other than right tackle, as some of the numbers showed us last season.
And so real quick, just to give more perspective to the sack conversation too, right? Like there's also a portion of this that has to be stated to give more context. There are guys that took more sacks than Will Levis did. They also played in more games. But let's go Joe Burrow. Let's go Geno Smith. Let's go Sam Darnold.
C.J. Stroud.
C.J. Stroud.
Got hammered last year.
100%. There's a difference, though, too, in speaking about Will Levis taking these sacks versus those quarterbacks, too. And I know he's not of the same ilk as those guys right now, but Joe Burrow, let's go with him. Number one passer last year in the league, too. 70% completion rate. Wow, I didn't know he was that high.
Oh, yeah, he was fantastic last year.
But he took 48 sacks and 652 attempts. The record was still 9-8.
Yeah.
So what I'm correlating this to is saying, look, the sacks that he took, I really don't. The sacks that he took aren't just because the offensive line was bad. There's other teams that had a high amount of sacks.
Yep.
Sam Darnold was one of those guys.
Mm-hmm.
The record was still better. The operation of these quarterbacks' completion percentages were still better.
Right.
Their touchdowns to interceptions were still better. Again, sacks is always brought up when you want to knock an offensive lineman or give a quarterback an excuse.
Totally.
But in all of that, it's not about the sacks. It's can you, as a quarterback, as an offense, overcome those negative yards? And that's where it becomes very problematic for Will Levis. Like, we can give the right tackle a lot of hell as it pertains to, it was a revolving door, or J.C. Latham was bad, or, hey, they had guys in and out of the lineup.
Right.
The point to be made on that is this. You still have to be able to overcome that and also help those guys out.
The right quarterback elevates lesser talent.
Did you feel confident in 2nd and 9 when it was a passing situation?
No.
Because of both the quarterback and his delivery of the football,
right,
and also the offensive line protection. You also put your O-line in a bad spot whenever what's his name, Anderson from Houston, right?
Will Anderson
from Houston, and if I'm not mistaken, Danielle Hunter went back-to-back on sacks.
Mm-hmm. Derek Barnett had a touchdown against the Titans.
You see what I'm saying? Like that, you expose the line too as a quarterback. Get rid of the ball is what I'm saying, or at least be a threat down the field.
Commenter on YouTube says they call deep passes with Will and short with Mason.
Why?
Well, first of all, do you agree with that from your on-field perspective?
Mason took shots.
They had a different playbook?
Well, and that's also to where you tried to pour into what Will Levis said he wanted to do.
Mason has a big arm still.
Has a cannon. He does.
Watch him at Oklahoma State. Like, Mason Rudolph also wants to throw the ball deep.
He
just gets it out more quickly and makes his decision a lot more quickly. I don't agree with the point that they called a different playbook for Mason Rudolph than they did for Will Levis.
Why would they have to call one, though, too? Like, can Will handle
Will
the
can't
rest of
execute
what?
it.
There we go. Like, Callahan said this in the Eastern Freeze, like, the interview. I actually thought Callahan gave too much information. He said Will Levis is,
Yeah, I think he does that
this.
sometimes.
So I'm going to break this down like this. He basically explained that Will Levis has to go all routes in the same direction. 1, 2, and 3 all going to the right, layered up.
Yeah.
The way he described it, Will Levis can't go 1 to the right side, 2 to the left hash, and 3 down the middle.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way it sounded like he explained it to me.
Yep.
And that becomes very one-dimensional for your offense.
It does.
And it helps the defense tremendously, too.
Yeah. Will Levis's processing ability is not at the level of an NFL starting quarterback. It might never be. It's truly just that simple. It's truly that simple. He is not an elite enough processor to be a successful quarterback in the National Football League, regardless of what's around him. Mind you, Will Levis last season, for all the offensive line issues he had, also had a $20 million plus wide receiver and a $10 million running back. Will Levis was not handed an empty cupboard and said, try to cook with this. He was given every opportunity to be successful, and at the beginning of the season had DeAndre Hopkins as well, and had Calvin Ridley as well, and had Tyler Boyd, had Chig Okonkwo. Like, it wasn't like this roster was always this terrible. Now, they've traded away Hopkins. Ridley's another year older. You have a different offensive line when Cushenberry goes out, and your right tackle position's a total revolving door, but it wasn't all bad. Will Levis helped make it bad last season. 615-737-1045. We'll get to Scotty Scheffler's Masters dinner later. It's probably better for me to not get hungrier than I need to be right now anyway. We'll talk about that at the end of the show because when we come back, Ramon Foster, what do you want to see today from the Tennessee basketball Vols? There's one thing specifically that Wofford will really challenge them in, and I think it's good news for Tennessee. That's next. 9:02 from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. Good morning. I'm Will Bowling. Marcus Foster scores 22 points last night as Xavier rallies past Texas 86-80 in the first four. The Musketeers pick up their 22nd win of the season, erasing a 13-point deficit in their biggest comeback win this season, advancing into the main bracket of the NCAA tournament. The Musketeers will play 6-seed Illinois on Friday night in a Midwest region game in Milwaukee. After the game, Chip Brown of 247 is reporting that Texas is expected to move on from head coach Rodney Terry, whose elite run in 2023 as Texas interim's head coach helped him earn a 5-year contract in the wake of Chris Beard's dismissal. He will be let go with 3 years remaining on his contract that pays him $3 million annually. Tennessee begins its run of the NCAA tournament tonight, 5:50 p.m. Vol Network coverage takes over here on the Zone at 5:15, and Westwood One's coverage of the NCAA tournament begins today at 11 a.m. Just 2 more hours right here on 104.5 The Zone. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, you need to visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone. Brewed up by Scooter's Coffee for 1 more hour on a Tennessee March Madness game day and day 1 of the NCAA tournament first round. Kayla is on vacation this morning, meaning you got the big ragu. And myself, Will Bowling, Ramon, and Will. RKW with Justin Hawkins at the controls. Ben McKee going to join us from Lexington. Up in Kentucky in 15 minutes, where Rocky Top will be played through Rupp Arena speakers tonight as Tennessee takes on Wofford. Ramon Foster, what do you want to see from the Vols as they begin their NCAA tournament run this evening?
Man, to be quite honest with you, before the defense, I want to see Chaz Lanier and Igor Milicic just reinstate themselves. Like Chaz fouling out the last game, I feel like this is just, 6 to the championship? Like, I know it's harder to do than me say it right now, but it is watching Chaz Lanier get hot and don't burn out. It's that. Watching Igor Milicic dominate from the high post all the way down to the low post, and specifically helping out Akpara on the boards. Man, those are the things I want to see happen in this game. This will be a prerequisite to everything moving forward for this tournament. They have to establish dominance. I think the line on this game is like 15 to 18 points.
Ken Palm has Tennessee winning by 17.
Cover. Easy cover. I'm talking about, seriously, Will, if we want to be taken seriously, all I'm saying right now is still just, Texas fell out. No. If you are the Vols, one of the top 4 teams coming out of the SEC, it must look like that, because years of dominance from the Big East, the ACC, or the Big 12, those teams that are front-loaded or the high end, the top of their conference, they dominated. When Duke went out and did what they were supposed to do, they dominated. That's what the Vols, that's what Auburn has to show, that's what Florida has to show, and who's the other 4th team in the SEC that we're looking? Well, those 3 right there. Yeah. They got to show.
Tennessee and Alabama, too. Yeah, all those
and
teams.
And Alabama, too, I forget. Yeah. Those 4 have to dominate, starting with Tennessee tonight.
One area specifically where I think Wofford will challenge Tennessee is rebounding. It is a Wofford team that actually rebounds the ball pretty well. Top 35 nationally in both offensive and defensive rebounding percentage. When you take as many threes as Wofford does, you get a lot of long rebounds. It helps erase some of the size disadvantage that you have. Wofford does not have rim protectors. Okay. I think this is a game where Tennessee will not have to rely on a lot of outside shooting. I think they'll be able to go inside. I think they'll be able to score at will in the paint. But in their 3-game run through the SoCon tournament, Ramon, Wofford had 10-plus offensive boards 2 times.
Well, what did Florida have against the Vols on Sunday?
That's what I'm saying.
Okay, yeah.
So that, to me, I think is a good thing for Tennessee to lock back in that department. It's not a matchup that worries me by any means. It is still a 2-15 matchup at the end of the day, but this is a good 3-point shooting team. Wofford, they have 4 players that made 50-plus threes this season.
Okay.
They made 11 or more threes in all 3 wins at the SoCon tournament. Tennessee, the best three-point defense in all of college basketball, I would imagine will take away a lot of those open looks. But even when Wofford played Tennessee last year in Thompson-Boling Arena, they were good on the boards.
Yeah.
They rebound the ball really well. So there's one player, Ramon, I think needs to lock in for Tennessee tonight.
Who's that?
Igor Milicic.
Igor.
I need Igor Milicic back to his best. I have been banging this drum all season. He is the X factor. The guards are consistent at this point. Heck, even Felix Okpara has given you a consistent level of rim protection, the lobs at the basket. I think that's something you'll see a lot of tonight, by the way.
I got away from it.
Without the rim protection, I think Tennessee is able to really just – I think it's a Felix Okpara alley-oop game. I would set the over-under on Tennessee alley-oops tonight at 5.5,
Okay.
to be quite honest with you. I need Igor Milicic to feel confident going into the second game of the NCAA tournament and the second weekend, because Tennessee is not winning a national championship if Igor Milicic is in foul trouble, A, like he has been a lot recently, and B, not the best version of himself.
Yeah. The last time we saw the best version of him, Missouri, was it? Is it that game, if I'm not
I'd
mistaken?
have to go back and look
I
specifically.
think that's the last time we spoke about when he had his perfect game or whatever it was, that matchup. It was then, if I'm not mistaken. But here's the other side of that, too. When you ask, when the Coach Barnes, come out and mention that, too, like, the response is necessary. That's what make good players great. Is can you respond to what the coach is saying? Coach Barnes is coaching through the press right now.
Yeah.
His insertion into the paint has to be something that happened going into this March Madness that they have.
Last big game that he had was at Kentucky. Igor Milicic actually was 3 of 4 from 3 in that game and 6 of 9 from the floor. It's that Arkansas game, though, at the beginning of SEC play that really got people's attention when he played 36 minutes in that game. He only had the 13 points, but he had 18 rebounds in that game. Like, this is the guy who has led Tennessee in rebounding all season. In the last 2 games of the SEC tournament, he combined for 3 rebounds against Florida and Auburn.
In that game?
3 total.
You said his first jump-off game, or his last best game, was in Lexington.
Yeah.
Where
There you
he
go.
had tonight.
They're in Lexington tonight.
They're in Lexington.
That's a great point.
Not that it has to correlate, but, like, dude, go find that
hurt.
old thing. Like, this is the first phase of this tournament. Dominate up there.
I do really like that Tennessee is playing in Rupp. I think there is an
You're so
advantage.
petty.
No. I'm talking purely from a basketball standpoint.
Okay.
I think there is an advantage having played in that arena as much as they have,
Yeah.
and understanding what it looks like, what it feels like, what the atmosphere will sound like. I know it'll be different because you'll have more orange in there, but truly though, the background of what it looks like behind the hoop when you're shooting in a building you've never been to before can be a bit of a culture shock. And the fact they've shot in that building quite a bit, I think, is meaningful.
Yeah, it will. And here's the thing, too. Wofford's going to give their best shot, 100%.
No doubt.
I just don't see them being that type of squad. Like, I'm expecting to see a good bit of K. Phillips on a night like tonight, too. You mentioned Okpara and 5 highly oops. Like, I was hoping you meant one of those was for my guy, K. Phillips.
No, I did. Yeah, 5.5 alley-oops total for Tennessee tonight.
And it has to be that, too. And they got to smother them defensively. They have to look like
for
the
sure.
number 1-2 seed.
I would tell Tennessee fans tonight, if Wofford goes on a little heater where they just make like 4 threes in a row, just let it happen. It's what they do. That they are a very, very reliant three-point shooting team. Now, that happens a lot against Tennessee in the NCAA tournament, but you also have to consider who are these teams shooting threes against, right? Like, with respect to, Furman and UT Chattanooga and ETSU.
VMI.
They have not been shooting threes over Jemai Mashak and Zakai Ziegler and Igor Milicic and these guys. So, not overly concerning matchup for Tennessee, but I do think it is a squad that will bring out some challenging parts of what makes Tennessee weak and make them have to really lock in on the glass, which I think is a good thing.
It is. They're on the heater right now. They won their last 3. The last loss was to Furman 4 games ago, and currently that's who they had to beat in the SoCon tournament championship to get in, too, was Furman. So they righted their wrongs. This is a team. It'll be fun. I think it should be. Well, let me say this. I hope it is, because we will hear it if it's not fun.
I think the number is a big one. I would take Tennessee to win by about 12 tonight. But by the way, I will pat myself on the back. I almost hit the Auburn score dead on. Or the Texas score dead on.
Yeah.
Because I remember Friday, I said, I think Tennessee wins something like 80-65.
Yeah.
And it was 78-65 with a minute and a half left for the free throws.
He was close.
Every now and then, I back myself into a good opinion. And into a good take. It doesn't happen often.
It don't count unless you put your money where your mouth is. If I could bet, I'd actually bet the over in this game. Vols win.
Yeah, sure.
I would.
Get behind
I think today would be an over day to say the Vols cleared this 17.5 points.
I love it. Feels like Christmas.
It does feel like Christmas. By the way, there are images of the Power T being on the Jumbotron inside of Lexington. Rupp Arena. It's even now. We can't just trash talk them like that anymore. Corrupt arena.
Absolutely love it. Coming up, Ben McKee will join us from that arena. We'll see if he's already there or if he is making his way around Lexington this morning. Go Vols 247 writer covering Tennessee athletics. Ben gives us the latest from Tennessee basketball as they get ready for Wofford tonight. Coming up next. RKW Brewed by Scooters Coffee continues on this Thursday morning. Locations in White House, Mount Juliet, Rivergate, Smyrna, and Brentwood. Download the Scooters Coffee mobile app today to order ahead and save $2 off your first mobile order. Ramon Foster, Will Bowling with you. Kayla's got the morning off as we are joined from Rupp Arena by GoVols 247's Ben McKee, previewing Tennessee and Wofford of the NCAA tournament tonight. Ben, what's up, man? How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. I appreciate y'all having me on. How are y'all?
Well, sir, we're good, man.
Morning.
We're good. It feels a little bit like a Friday with Tennessee basketball starting tonight. First, quickly, Ben, though, since you and Ramon always get your Steelers love in every time we have you on, who's your quarterback going to be next year? Do you want to be Aaron Rodgers?
Yeah, where you at, Ben?
Let's get this out of the way.
With this question?
Well, we're just getting it out of the way. We're getting it out of the way.
I wanted to ask you too, Ben. I ain't gonna lie. I wanted to kind of text you, honestly, and just be like, all right, you're a little bit further from the sun than I am. Am I overreacting? Right. Where are you?
I wanted Justin Fields.
Yeah,
that's who I wanted. If not Justin Fields, I wanted Sam Darnold. I wanted one of those two. If we were bringing Russell Wilson back, I was okay with it as long as he was in a backup role. His time as a starter, I think, is over. I did not like the move to start him last year, and it worked off for a couple of games. But then it was clear that the mobility was no longer there. Yep. He was playing because he was supposed to not be turning it over in the red zone and kept turning it over in the red zone. So I felt like Fields added more to the offense last year, and I thought that proved to be true down the stretch. So I don't want Russell Wilson back as the starter. I don't want Aaron Rodgers at all because he is washed. I think. I just don't think he's the same Aaron Rodgers. Right. As simple as that. And not only is he not the same quarterback he once was, all the drama that comes with it. Like, I'm good. We've already got George Pickens in his drama. DK Metcalf is going to be trying to fight people as well. Like, I don't need more drama. So I don't know. Maybe just start Mason Rudolph at this point.
See? That's where I am.
Ben knows ball, not just an orange.
And Ben, I wanted you to say all that. We hadn't talked, first and foremost. No. But I like to do this show sometimes and just be a football guy, not just, hey, you wouldn't do that for your Steelers. No, I wouldn't want Aaron Rodgers in Nashville, and I wouldn't want him in Pittsburgh.
I don't want him anywhere. No. I want him in Egypt.
I don't know why
he can't hurt us.
Any team would want him.
Yeah, that's right.
Exactly.
That's right. Exactly. Ben McKee joining us from Lexington, getting ready for Tennessee's NCAA tournament run. Ben, tonight specifically, what are you looking for as the Vols take on Wofford, and what intrigues you about this matchup?
Well, first and foremost, you start with Tennessee's perimeter defense because of how well Wofford can shoot the basketball. Wofford scores 40% of their points from three, which is a high number, obviously, and it'll be going up against the best three-point defense in the country. Your eyes tell you that, as long as you don't go back and watch the Kentucky games. But also, statistically speaking, Tennessee has the best three-point defense in the country. So that's the matchup to circle right there is can Tennessee's defense slow down Wofford's shooting efforts? And it's not just one guy that Tennessee is going to have to worry about. They've had 4 different players this season make more than 50 threes, which is tied for second most in the country. And this was a team that went, I believe they're 19-6 or so coming in, or 19-16 or so coming into the tournament. So it's a team that had to get hot at the right time in order to punch its ticket to the NCAA tournament. But the reason they were able to do so is because of how they shot the ball in the SoCon tournament, especially in the title game. So Tennessee's perimeter defense is going to have to step up. Wofford averages 9.7 made threes per game. That's 36th nationally. So just some more stats to back up the fact that Wofford's a really good shooting team. And Tennessee's perimeter defense that has been awesome all season long, it has to live up to its resume. It has to play to the back of its baseball card. And if it does so, then Tennessee should win comfortably.
Ben McKee of 24/7 Sports with us this morning. Ben, speaking of momentum, you speak about Wofford's momentum, man. What part of this Vols team needs to catch momentum going into this tournament? Is it the defense? Is it a player? Where's the best method of success when you talk about momentum carrying the squad going into it?
Well, the big talking point since they lost to Florida on Sunday has been the rebounding. But I think that Florida was more about Florida just being ridiculous on the glass and just having like 3 Hulks inside there in the paint. And, Felix Akpar, Cade Phillips, they've had really strong seasons. I just don't know that their body types are prepared to go up against the Ruben Chanelus of the world and those more traditional big men that have quite a bit of muscle to them. Felix and Cade, their game is more on athleticism and the ability to protect the rim with their ability to jump and things of that nature. And I just feel like Florida was a really, really bad matchup and not necessarily a red flag all of a sudden about Tennessee's rebounding efforts. Now, there are some stats that point to the fact that, hey, like Tennessee's been tailing off on the glass of late. I feel like Tennessee's been a good rebounding team overall from start to finish this season or entering the tournament. But in the last 6 games, in 3 of them, they've allowed 10 offensive rebounds or more. And in the last 2 losses to Ole Miss and Florida, they've given up 15 offensive rebounds. So it's that is a fair point to bring up. Like, hey, you need to kind of find your mojo back on the glass and be better on the boards. That'll be key in tonight's matchup. To Will's first question, Wofford's really good rebounding the basketball. They rank top 35 nationally in offense and defensive rebounding percentage. Now, they've been rebounding against SoCon teams. Tennessee has been rebounding against the best conference that has ever played college basketball, apparently. So there is some context there. But Tennessee needs to find its mojo on the glass again. And I think that starts, to specifically answer your question, Ramon, it starts with Igor Milicic finding his mojo. He has not played well the last month or so, really since the last time he played in Rupp when he was terrific offensively. It's kind of been downhill since then. And I think he's just in his head. And I think when things have not gone his way early in basketball games, because you saw Auburn, Florida, he comes out and hits a 3 on Tennessee's first or second possession, and he's flying all around the floor on both ends and making things happen. He looks good. He looks like he's playing with confidence, and then he turns the basketball over. Then he commits a foul, and it just like his head starts to spiral. So I don't want to suggest that he's not mentally tough enough, but he needs to have more mental toughness as Tennessee heads into the tournament, because he can really elevate Tennessee's ceiling, obviously, and help them get to a Final Four, and do so by being productive on the offensive end, and then also helping Tennessee clean up things on the rebounding as well and limiting offensive rebounds.
Ben McKee at Go247 Sports with us right now. Ben, when you look at the recipe for this squad, the best versions of it that I've seen over the course of this year has been when Chaz comes out or another offensive player comes out and just get fire hot. Specifically, Chaz Lanier gets fire hot coming into the game. I think he did the Auburn game. And then you find second half Zakai Ziegler. Like, how can they continually challenge that portion of their game, man, as far as being able to score? Because, again, the defense is there, but there's only so much defense when you got shooters like Florida that'll cross you over, step back, and make a 3 in the SEC championship tournament game. But then, like, you can't score yourself. How do they continually find that facet of this team with this Rick Barnes-led team?
Right, and that's something they're going to have to do these next couple of games if it is able to make a Final Four run. Because you know what the defense is going to give you. You know the defense is going to give you a chance to win every single night, kind of regardless of what your offense is doing. And I do feel like Tennessee's offense has been good overall this season. It's not as elite as some of the other offenses in the country or even in the SEC, but it's still top 25 in national efficiency. And if you're in the top 25 of offensive efficiency, then you have a good offense. And I do feel like this offense has been more steady throughout the season. And when they have had their eggs that they've laid, I think that's more a byproduct of just how long a basketball season is, the fickle nature of making shots. Some nights shots go in, some nights they don't. I think it's been more about the ebbs and flows of a basketball season when the offense has not performed, rather than them lacking personnel to be good offensively like they have in the past. I trust this offensive personnel to be more consistent throughout, but there's no doubt, to your point, that they need to be able to find more offense against the better teams in the tournament, such as Florida, because they weren't able to keep Florida off the glass, and that was the biggest reason they lost on Sunday. They also weren't able to generate enough offense themselves. Foul trouble here and there did not do them any favors, but Chaz had a tough game in part because of foul trouble, and Jordan Gainey really carried carried the load as much as he could. Zakai Ziegler carried the load. I think in terms of taking that next step offensively, it starts with Igor Milicic. As I mentioned, he can give so much more than he has given the last several weeks. I mean, again, what he did in Rupp the last time he was here, that was one of his best offensive games of the season, and he had strung together a couple of offensive performances there where I was being asked, hey, should Igor be the focal point of the offense? So you know that he has that in him. I think it's about those guys. You know what you're going to get from Zakai Ziegler. You know what you're going to get from Jordan Gainey. You know what you're getting offensively from Jemai Meshack. He's probably not getting into double figures. You don't have that guy in the post that you can throw the ball to, and he gets you a bucket traditionally as a big man. In terms of the offense elevating its game this time of year, especially if it runs into a Houston, a Florida, those tier 1 teams that can win a national championship, if the offense is going to find more, I think it has to come from Chaz Lanier, and I think it has to come from Igor. Igor can obviously elevate his game, as I discussed. And with Chaz, I would like to see him just continuing to shoot the basketball.
Yeah.
I mean, he has those 20-point halves, like you mentioned, and then in the second half, it's like he barely even shoots the basketball, and that can't happen. He's too good of a shooter. He's too important to Tennessee for that to happen.
Ben McKee, Go Vols 247, our guest this morning on Ramon, Kayla, and Will. Ben, do you like the draw that Tennessee got last season? They might have been the third best team in the country when it was all said and done. The problem is they just ran into the second best team in the Elite Eight in Purdue. Is this a better fit for Tennessee, having Kentucky as their 3 and Houston as their 1 versus what they had last season?
I don't just like the draw. I love it. I think by NCAA tournament standards, and given how tough the tournament is, I think this is best case scenario. There's just not a team until you theoretically get to Houston that scares you, at least for me. And that's not at all to suggest that it's going to be easy and every game's going to be a cakewalk. Utah State will present issues if Tennessee plays Utah State in the second round. UCLA will present issues tonight. Wofford will present issues with their shooting, their ability to rebound the basketball. But like overall, in terms of just simply comparing, is this team better than Tennessee? Out of Illinois, Kentucky, Troy, Xavier, UCLA, Utah State, Wofford, who of those teams are you saying is better than Tennessee? I don't say any of them. Right. And I recognize that Kentucky did take it to Tennessee twice this season. It's an odd feeling to have when that has happened, but I have a hard time believing that Kentucky would beat Tennessee a third time. I'd like to think that Tennessee would clean up the issues that led to so many open threes for Kentucky in those games, given how good their perimeter defense is, given how good their defense is overall. But it would still be a challenge. You would play those guys in Indianapolis, and that would be a home game for Kentucky. Like that would be a challenging game. But even despite Tennessee being 0-2 against Kentucky this year, I still think Tennessee's better. And I think they're better than Illinois. Tennessee already beat them in Illinois in a really tough road environment. It did come down to the wire, but again, it was a really tough road environment. Illinois was playing much better basketball at the beginning of the season than it is now. And then in terms of Tennessee's group of 4 that it's in right now, like Tennessee is better than Wofford, UCLA, and Utah State. I don't think there's any doubt. So I think the path, given it being an NCAA tournament and all that comes with that, I think it's as good of a draw as you could ask for this time of year. I mean, they got a better draw than Auburn, and Auburn's the number 1 overall seed in the tournament. Right. Auburn, man, Bruce Pearl was not happy about their draw, and rightfully so. So it appears to be a golden opportunity for Tennessee to take advantage of the draw and make that push to its first ever Final Four. Now it's about going out and taking advantage of how the chips have fallen in your favor and just making it happen. I mean, that sounds so simple, but I think in order for Tennessee to get to the Final Four, it takes a guy like Zakai Ziegler to grab the bull by the horns and just make it happen. And I think there's a path there that you can reasonably see them getting to the Final Four.
Ben, I don't like doing longer, bigger picture conversations the day of a game when there's a whole tournament to happen, but it is a question I think that Vols fans and basketball fans are very interested to learn the answer to, which is Rick Barnes' future. And with Zakai Ziegler graduating, with kind of a regime change that is going to have to happen on the floor next season, Do you think this is his final run with Tennessee through the NCAA tournament, Rick Barnes?
Ooh, you put me on the spot there, Will. Throwing me a fastball up
I know.
We haven't even opening days next week, William. What are you doing to me?
That's why I led you off with the Steelers stuff so we could get to the nitty gritty here by the end of this conversation.
Tony V has been up there working for a while, Ben. This is no excuse, baby. You know the fastball, and then the curve was coming after that. Come on, man.
I'm just glad I'm not facing your son on the mound. That's what I know. But I don't think that this is his last run.
Okay.
I have not heard anything behind the scenes that would suggest one or the other. This is just my personal opinion and reading the tea leaves and trying to think things out. There's obviously a lot of layers to it. I think on one hand, it would make a lot of sense for this to be his last dance, given how much turnover there is going to be after the season. And I would think, being in Rick's shoes, he would hate to make that decision when he inevitably has to, because it's going to affect so many people. It's going to affect the players who can return, the assistant coaches who are staying at Tennessee if they do come back for another year. Obviously, there's a lot of people that it affects when Rick makes this decision. So if he was wanting to make the decision when it would affect as few people as possible, this would be the year, given how much turnover there is going to be with the roster. And even within that, one of the guys that's not coming back is the heart and soul of the Rick Barnes era, and especially these last 4 years. And he plays that prominent position for Rick that Rick really puts a lot of stress on, and Zakai has handled it flawlessly. So within wanting to minimize the damage of how many people he would affect within the program when he makes the decision, this would be the year to do so, especially if they were to make a run, if they were to make it to the Final Four, make it to the national championship. I mean, it all makes sense. I think the writing would be on the wall of how much it makes sense. But the reason I don't think that it is his last dance is because I see how he is in practice every day. And he is the same Rick Barnes in practice in 2025 as he was in 2015, 10 years ago.
Right.
And I think he's also a guy that will take time after the season to make the decision, which would not put Tennessee in the best spot, given when it would need to make a hire, given I imagine the portal will dry up by then. Yep. But Rick really believes, and Dean Smith told him this, like when it's getting that time to make a decision, don't make it in the immediate aftermath of the season, because you will be emotional. Take some time, make a decision. I'm not saying go the Tony Bennett route and announce 2 weeks before the season, but like take a month or two to make sure that you are making the right decision. So I don't think it's going to be rushed. I think he will make sure he does every pros and cons list possible. But he just strikes me as still having the energy to coach. And he's always said that when I don't show up with the same excitement to lead practice and be at practice and work to get better, when I don't show up with the same, when I'm not excited to go to the facility for practice like that, I'll know it's time to hang it up. He just doesn't strike me as being in that mindset. He seems like he is still really enjoying coaching, but we'll see what happens when it really sets in a month or two from now, that, hey, you're not going to be able to coach Zakai Ziegler or Jemai Meshack next year. You're going to have a brand new point guard, and Lord knows how hard he is on when he is breaking in new point guards.
It's excellent insight, Ben. It's great stuff, and I know I put you on the spot, but that's a really interesting answer, and I think there's nuance to that certainly is something to monitor. And again, like I hate doing this stuff when there's a game to talk about, but Ben, I know you're probably like me, that you see friends, you see family or people that are just Tennessee fans that you see out in the wild, and you talk Tennessee basketball, and that question comes like 30 seconds after you start talking about Tennessee basketball. Like, is this it for Rick? Like, well, I don't know. So
it seems to me like
that question multiple times a week.
Yeah, right.
I was going to say, I would feel it was time to go if he hadn't embraced and let everybody know he's adjusted to what NIL is.
For sure. Yeah.
Yes, he has adjusted to this new age of college recruiting as well as any veteran coach of any of the big college sports.
Yep. 100%. Ben McKee bringing us the goods from Lexington this morning as Tennessee gets ready to take on Wofford. Of course, Fall Network coverage right here at 5:15 on the Zone. Great to hear from you, my friend. Enjoy corrupt arena as much as one can. Appreciate the time.
Well, it was either Lexington or Tuscaloosa this weekend, so I took the shorter drive. Always appreciate y'all having me on, and hope y'all have a great weekend.
Yes, sir. You too. There's Ben McKee from Lexington this morning. Choosing the lesser of two evils, Lexington over Tuscaloosa.
Never been in that city yet.
Lexington?
Nope.
It's
as a civilian. I've been to play games, but never go see a game or go to a restaurant. What do they got? A Kentucky?
Go up Saturday.
Baseball.
Yeah,
we'll be at the park.
That's all right.
Yeah, no, I'm not tripping off that. I love that.
Oh, no, absolutely.
But I just never.
Everyone should see Rupp Arena who likes college basketball. It's very fun.
That's why I heard it's nice there.
It's even better when Tennessee wins there, which I was lucky enough to see as a junior.
Didn't get it this year.
Whew, no, they did not. No, they did not. 615-737-1045. One of my favorite traditions in sports had its most recent update released yesterday. We will talk about that to wrap up the show next. Duggan! Oh, it's this mood all day. RKW brewed by Scooter's Coffee, wrapping up the show before the basketball takes over right here on 104.5 The Zone. Westwood won at 11. If you have not heard that skit, Tim Robinson, Jason Sudeikis, SNL with Vince Vaughn hosting years ago. Oh,
that's Sudeikis.
It's an all-timer. He's the one doing the woo in the background.
Yeah,
Jason Sudeikis.
Like Sudeikis, man.
Gosh, it's so good.
That's actually very hilarious.
So good.
It's here.
It's the guy from I Think You Should Leave who's doing the piano.
Yeah.
Doing the that guy.
I love that guy, too.
He is so
hilarious.
funny, but they do a skit based off of making the NBC basketball theme. They're like, hey, they have the two guys walk in. It's like, hey, we thought about these lyrics. They're like, have you ever thought about, just doing it, the one of you? And they're like, oh, yeah, good point. But, like, I wouldn't say basketball without the music behind me. They're like, no. We didn't mean you. We meant the one playing the music. They're like, well, that wouldn't work. Anyway,
That was good.
one of the best theme
sure
songs
I've
in
seen
sports.
it.
So good. We'll watch it after the show.
It's finally here, man. All these office pools.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, get in where you fit in. You better put your $5 in.
Congratulations to any kid out there who's going to have a TV wheeled in on a cart into their classroom today. I hope they still do that.
I'll never forget. My 10th grade teacher did it. It was so phenomenal.
So good. Or you just pull down the projector screen now, I guess, because everyone has built-in projections.
Or pull out your iPads at this point.
Everybody get on their laptops. You can watch one game. Doesn't hit the same.
No.
Doesn't hit the same. What does hit is the Masters dinner. I am obsessed with this. We talked about this yesterday off air. So if you're unfamiliar, every year at the Masters, there's a champions dinner. So Ben Hogan started this in 1952, who won his first Masters in 51. Where were you when Ben Hogan won his first Masters?
Can you imagine him presenting this? Like, y'all need to honor me.
How about I throw a dinner? I'll pay for all of it.
Yeah.
But everyone who's ever won this, let's just have dinner before the tournament. Yeah. So per tradition, the previous year's champ chooses the menu. I believe they also pay for it.
That's what I saw. They
which is
pay for
crazy.
it. Yeah.
So international winners often will honor their country. Like John Rahm has done like paella, a paella, as he would say. I'm probably wrong on that. Like there has been really good like Japanese cuisine with some of those players have won, like Argentina, all this stuff. So Scotty Scheffler chose his. Obviously got his second green jacket last year, 4 under 68 in the final 18. They will get an appetizer of cheeseburger sliders.
An appetizer.
Firecracker shrimp.
Yes.
And meatball and ravioli bites, which is funny because he hurt his hand around Christmas making ravioli. So I think he's kind of making fun of himself with that one. You have to have a meat and a fish is one of the rules.
Okay.
So he has Texas-style chili, followed by a main course of either cowboy ribeye or blackened redfish. For dessert, a warm chocolate chip skillet cookie with vanilla bean ice cream.
I'm planning on the appetizers being fire. All of those that you mentioned, elite, okay?
Yep. Firecracker shrimp is a great choice.
Easily. The burger sliders, okay, so I'm going to go light on the entree. Give me the fish, even though I know the steak is probably elite.
That's a lot of red meat. You go cheeseburger sliders, then you follow it up with a ribeye.
Exactly. And then when is the first round? The first round is tomorrow?
No. Well, the first round's still in another 2 or 3 weeks.
I guess how soon is the dinner?
I believe the dinner's on Monday night, and the tournament is on Thursday.
Oh, okay. I got time. I got time. I can work that
part
off.
3 contest, you'll be having a heavy stomach, but you're chilling.
Yeah, I'm chilling. All right, but still, like, if I'm really trying to make it through the tournament, I'm probably going to hit all of the appetizers, just being completely honest. Give me the fish, and the reason I'm getting the fish is because I'm thinking about the doggone cookie.
The skillet cookie is such a good pull.
Would you split it with me? Because I don't want all of it.
Sure.
Okay, all right, bet.
Because I'm going ribeye. So, all right, build your Masters dinner.
Build my
Give me
Masters?
3 appetizers. Go. Top of the mind.
Philly cheesesteak egg rolls.
Ooh.
Firecracker shrimp.
Yep.
And a sushi roll.
I would go some kind of sushi roll is a great a crunchy shrimp roll.
Yeah.
I would go spinach artichoke dip. And I would go with fried mozzarella. Like the fried fresh mozzarella.
Okay.
Actually, know what? Take out the sushi roll. Give me take out that. Give me the. Have you done those boars and cheese with hot honey?
I've seen it. Hadn't had it.
Baked boars and cheese rolled in breadcrumbs with hot honey drizzled on it. Elite.
You speak Keisha language.
2. I love it. I love it. 2 entrees. I would go with a miso glazed salmon for my fish option. And I'm going Delmonico cut of a steak with cowboy butter on top of it.
Fish, I'm going sea bass, Chilean sea bass.
Okay.
And as far as meat, give me fillets.
I like it.
Fillets with blue cheese
and
crumble
dessert
on top. Dessert, I'm the same as him. Give me the cookie. Give me the skillet cookie.
Creme brulee cheesecake
or brownies.
For me. Creme brulee cheesecake for me is my dessert. It's my favorite dessert in the world because I love creme brulee and I love cheesesteak. Not cheese, well, cheesesteak too. Cheesecake, creme brulee cheesecake.
Now, red velvet cheesecake be fire.
So there you go.
There it is. Yeah,
that is like that is a conversation that gets the group text going. Of like, hey, look at the Masters dinner menu this year. What would you change or what would you pick? So anyway, it's a good one.
Timothy's right. Wings, easily could go wings.
Yeah. I mean, you've got the whole Masters kitchen at your disposal. I would probably do something. You know, my buddy Andrew texts me, says you got to do something Nashville. Like a hot chicken biscuit appetizer with a little bit of honey butter. Represent Nashville.
Elite.
That's such a good pull from my buddy A-Pal. So fantastic. That is the show, the Buck Rising Show for a 1-hour extravaganza.
That's it?
Has you covered up next. Everybody else gets spring break. We're working. We got 4 hours to do tomorrow.
Tell me that, man.
Like it or not like it, 80% of 104.5 The Zone tomorrow will be us right here. Back at it. 6 a.m. bright and early. After the Vols take down some Tyrians.
This is why the morning crew get bitter right here.
Send us home.
That's
Ramon.
me. All right, well, never mind then. Hey, listen up, good people. As you go into this bracketology, your Twitter fingers and your mic is still hot, all right?